Alright, just sit back and get ready to have the most fun you ever had with an electronic device. All right, everybody, welcome out to the Get On With It sports show. Sorry about that. It is Wednesday, February the 2nd, 2022, is it, right? 22, yeah.
22.
You're off to a good start.
I know. I'll explain why in a minute, yeah. Jersey Johnny coming at you, and with me, as always, is none other than Mr. Harry Lug Nutz and Mr. RadioPete. Say hello, gentlemen.
Hello, gentlemen.
Hi, guys. Hi, everybody. Hi.
For those who don't have the video link, Pete was just doing jazz hands.
Yeah, he was. He was doing jazz hands. You got to get on there and look at it. The reason I was all a little kaflooey there for a second was I actually wasn't listening to the intro because I didn't boot up the app to let me listen to it. Things will be changing shortly in the next couple of weeks as far as what we use to broadcast to you because this is annoying. But in any event, so I had to guess when the intro was done. So that's where I was. Anyway, so how is everybody this evening?
It's another day. Another day.
Yeah.
It's another day.
We're getting close to spring. Pitchers and catchers in like 4 days.
Can't wait.
Catchers
yeah.
And
We've had the snowiest month, I think, in the last 20 years this year.
Well, that's good. We had the snowiest day for a month in the last 20 years or so here.
You guys had a dusting. I saw what you got. Everybody's up.
Dusting, we had 18 inches here.
Down there, you had 18 inches? I was looking at people up in New York and like an inch and a half.
I was shoveling for 6 hours on Saturday.
Well, that's what you get for moving down to the south.
Yeah, but usually the other way around. They usually get slammed, and we usually get 2 inches. You know, and even where I am, I'm 4 blocks from the water, from the beach.
That's, by the way, note to self: edit that part out. They usually get slammed. And we usually get 2 inches.
Oh, jeez.
The new intro just wrote itself.
I was going to say.
We finally got more than a foot. And I, for one, am very happy.
18 inches is a lot to live up to, but 2 inches,
that's easy to handle. That's fine.
I'm not even sure they're around.
Exactly. Well, anyway. No, but it's usually like a mile in can get like 8 or 10 inches here, and we'll still get like only an inch or two. All right. Enough. All right. Here we go. Changing gears on my cue. All right. Anyway, yeah. Well, not that we're going to talk about any baseball tonight because there's really nothing to talk about other than the fact that they reported the other day that both sides are not any closer than they were in December. So that's lovely. So yeah, baseball's going to be delayed this year.
Well, there's one other story I think.
Is there
in baseball?
Yeah, it's kind of it's a Mets related story.
Go ahead.
Anyway, so Omar Minaya has been named the amateur scouting consultant.
Okay.
By Major League Baseball.
His last album was really good.
Yeah. I did like it. He used a lot of conga jumps.
Yes.
And the reason I bring it up is because
and the African rain stick.
He was the first Latino general manager, right, for the Expos in 2002, and started his career with the Rangers in 1984, which was how many years ago?
1984, we're approaching 40, yeah, so 38 years ago.
So he started almost 40 years ago as a scout, and here it is nearly 4 decades later, and he's now a scouting consultant.
Right.
Well, good for him. He's still working.
Yeah,
it's like a circle. It's like, just...
I had a real job once, and now I'm shoveling sidewalks and competing for janitorial jobs. So.
Well, he was also up for the... firing manager's job, but
yes,
he didn't get that one.
He didn't get it all in.
Not much of a track record there.
No,
but good for him. He's a good guy, and honestly, that's probably what he did better than anything else was scout players.
Oh hell yeah! I mean, he's a very good scout. I mean,
he's in the right place, and baseball's better for having put him there.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
But yeah, as far as the talks go,
there's nothing. The talks are just they're
The players' union came back and said, "Oh yeah, let's do this and this." And it was nothing. It was garbage.
They don't give a shit. We're literally. I'm honestly going out right now. I'm going to say we'll be lucky if we see baseball in May. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah, who cares? I mean, 60. Just make it a 30-game season.
There you go.
Yeah.
Make it a 17 game season. Just play once every Sunday.
Right.
A couple of Saturday games and Monday night baseball and
everybody play every other team once.
That's right. And one inning has to be pitched by a shortstop, and you have to play half the game with the shift on.
There you go. No matter who's up at bat.
No matter who's up at bat. Yeah.
Here's one thing I do want to ask you guys about, though, since we're not going to talk about baseball.
What's that?
They're talking about this pre-arbitration fund that they want. So in other words, they want to.
You're digging deep. You listen to Radio Free Moscow for this?
The pre-arbitration bonus pool. The players, they go from 105 million. The owners won't.
It's very
now
interesting.
100 million to the players.
We should bring this into our own federation.
It's because it's a larger question.
Right.
So basically, this is a pool of money that players who do really well, like perform above and beyond their contract, would get a bonus.
Mm-hmm.
And the examples they give here are, let's see, Corbin Burns. Who's he?
I thought you were going to say Corbin Burnson. I thought you were going to say.
Corbin Burnson. Yeah.
Who's Corbin Burns? What did
he played for the Indians back in '88, didn't he?
He would probably benefit from a pool of money right now.
He's the National League Cy Young winner.
Corbin Burns. Oh, yes.
Okay, last season he got $608,000. Under the league's proposal, he would have gotten $2.34 million. The other example is VGJ, as I call him, Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
VGJ.
Who
He's the only person that calls him that.
Say it 7 or 8 times in a row.
VGJ.
Then it sounds even dirtier than originally. $635,000.
It's like a Bollywood star. VGJ.
$635,400. He would have made $1.843 million. So other pre-arbitration players, Austin Riley, Rosarena, blah blah blah.
Right.
I think they should do this at Safeway and King Supers and Home Depot for the one person who actually works.
All of that orange juice in less than an hour. Here's the question, the larger question at hand. Does this really? I have to say, I kind of have to. Why do we have to do this?
I don't know.
I am not sure.
Like, I understand the premise behind it. These guys played well beyond their contract. They should have made more money. But they didn't play well beyond their contract before they signed the contract.
Right.
Yeah, we should pool the money.
A contract is basically a reward for what you did to get the contract.
Rewarding people for performance will just turn the country soft.
So,
but
you played this well. Here's your contract. Oh, but you're going to play well again, so I got to give you more. And I get what you're saying. And
the owners wanted, or the league wanted a $10 million pool. Mm-hmm. The players said $105 million. They've now reduced that to $100 million. So, big change. I mean, this. Listen, I got to side with the owners on this, with the league. Excuse me, the league.
Nobody's happy with their employment these days. Everybody's just looking for a livable wage. And when you're making $680,000 a year, you just can't make it.
Well, I understand that. My question is, if you're going to do that, you got to go the other way too, don't you?
Yeah.
What if you underperform the next year?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Then you ought to take the cut, but we know that's not going to happen. I mean, honestly, they're both sides are slime, right? We know that.
Right.
But if you sign a guy and he turns out to be a great player and that initial contract doesn't cost a lot of money, that's a reward for being smart, for being right about him, for bringing him in, right? For drafting the guy, for bringing him in your organization, for developing him. And you get him for a few years and then he blossoms into a superstar. And then probably half the time you're going to lose him.
Well, there should be
because you can't afford to pay him, that kind of money.
Right. I mean,
so now the players
VGJ is going to have his day.
Right. So now the players are saying, it's not.
It writes itself. That's all.
It's not a tremendous amount of money to go from, $608,000 to $2.34 million. But look at that after, it could be a handful of players.
VGJ got a $200 Christmas bonus. Look,
it was a gift card at Best Buy.
The one thing that this does, I think, work for, and I think it could work in both ways, is to have incentive-based contracts. I think there's nothing wrong with that.
I don't think so either. But
even some of the best players in history, especially on their second or third contracts, have have had incentive-based things, which is great. The problem where it becomes a problem is for people who have, who are getting above and beyond what they're doing, and then all of a sudden they have a good year, and now it's they're looking into that even further.
And there's already something of an incentive-based system because there are all sorts of bonuses. Here's your base, and hit 30 home runs, you're going to get this. Whatever. I don't know what the steal bases or who knows, win 15 games or.
I think they have these incentive-based things for teams to make it to the playoffs. Like if you win a championship, you get more money. I think that it works.
Right.
I don't know.
I just can't have any sympathy.
We can look at it obviously as people who make far less than the minimum baseball player makes, and say, hey, these are people who are making really good money. The other side of it is when you look at some of these people and what they're doing, how they're performing, and what the ownership is making, what the networks are making, and what the league is making. Obviously, there's extra money going around. There's if there's this much extra money, then that the owners are willing to part with, then I think that tells you a little bit right there.
A little bit.
That's just it. They're not willing to part with the extra money. They're fighting it too. $10 billion.
And maybe they shouldn't. That's why. I mean, look. If everybody in America had an agent negotiating their salary, we'd all be making a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't feel sorry for a guy who's making a lot of money, and I know you have expenses like an agent and all that, but I mean. Baseball pay. These guys still get meal money, right?
Right.
They still get here's your allowance for you to go and I don't. Who gets that? I don't get that at my job. Do you?
No.
Well, you're an old proprietorship or whatever, so you have to give yourself a couple bucks. But both of you guys, right? You owe yourself money. But me too. Actually, I'm an independent contractor right now. I don't hand myself $4 every day for lunch. But I mean, I can't feel sorry for these guys who go, I had a really good season. Give me more.
Well,
you got to pay your dues. And that means, getting less for your initial contract.
Mm-hmm. I say leave that up to the owners and the individual players. Look, if I'm an owner, I mean, I think this is where the owners fall short too, though. If I'm an owner and I know I have somebody on a rookie contract, let's say, and they are performing, and they're performing really, really well, I'm going to open up my checkbook.
Yeah, there's nothing
to make them happy.
Stopping anybody from
and most of the time
working a deal.
Yeah, and most of the time that comes in a renegotiated contract or an extension to a contract.
Right.
And then usually, a lot of times, they wind up making way more than they should because they can't live up to those initial performance stats. So
seems kind of greedy.
I mean, I think
it seems a little greedy. Yeah.
I think Nolan Ryan would probably have benefited from this back in his day. I think Yogi Berra having to sell cars in the off season is a little different. Is a little bit of a different perspective.
Well, yeah, I mean, some of these players. Seriously, some of these players only have 8 cars.
Mm-hmm.
It's a shame.
Yeah, and they bought some of them from Yogi Berra.
And he bought some from Yogi Berra, right? Exactly.
Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up.
No, that's
right.
that's a fair point. It's really good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we've started off with the biggest headlines in sports today.
We do
because there's really nothing else going on.
Listen, we kind of go alphabetically on this show.
Yeah, unfortunately, baseball starts
football,
with a B, and Australian rules football,
hockey,
is not in our mix.
Basketball, and hockey,
basketball,
football,
basketball, basketball,
baseball,
and
football, basketball, and then hockey.
I like basketball better.
Isn't basketball before?
Yeah, well, that's why we made it basketball.
Yeah. Okay.
So anyway, all right. Yeah. Well, there you go. So let's move on to some football then. You know what? We weren't really going to talk about baseball. We only spent 14 minutes talking about it, so that's not bad. So
no,
it's pretty good in the grand scheme of things. It's pretty good.
Sure,
I agree. All right, so we're going to start off football like we always do with the quiz. Different one tonight. different kind of one-ish.
Good. We're not doing linebackers from 2016 to 2018.
No, I actually have free safeties from the 20s.
There's no such thing.
That's why it's an interesting list.
They were not free.
They were very expensive. Some of them made $25 a game. All right.
Linebackers named Johnson.
1912.
That played in teams that had blue in their colors. Yeah. All right. Now tonight's list, we're going with best defenses. I put all time.
All right.
But I got a list of 6. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a list of 6. You're going to pick 4 from them, and then we'll do something else after that. So,
it's a special quiz.
It's a special kind of quiz. So, you got to pick 4 of these 6 I give you. Get rid of 2.
I feel like we should have, like on Match Game, we should have our answers written down and then
hold them up. Right? Exactly. Your first one is
John could be Gene Rayburn.
Gene Rayburn. Yeah.
Hi, Gene. Ryan's 46 defense was a real blank.
It was a real blank.
What did
when
he say?
Runs around the end, he
tight
blanks
end.
Around the end.
He doesn't just tackle you; he blanks you.
Yeah, I'm going to say starts dating you.
That's what we need.
That is next week's opening. Right there, write that down. 16 minutes. All right.
When Brian Urlacher tackles you, he doesn't just tackle you.
He puts a ring on it.
Blanks you.
Yeah. Impregnates
you.
Where's the ghost of Gene Rayburn?
There you go. I gotta get that really long mic, and we gotta get some cheesy 70s game show music going on. That'd be perfect.
And Richard Dawson.
Oh yeah. All right. Here we go. All right. Best defenses. Here we go. Write these down.
All right.
Here we go.
Oh wait, I gotta get me some scrap paper.
A little scrap paper going on.
Come on, you got to be prepared for the quiz.
I do. I actually had to cut some of this off or something, and I saved the rest of it.
Save the rest for your scrap. There you go. See that? It's conserving paper. There you go.
All right.
Waste not, want not. All right, here we go. 1971 Purple People Eaters Vikings. 1971 Vikings. All right. 1976 Steel Curtain. 76 Steelers.
You're making it easy for me, huh?
1977 Orange Crush. 77 Broncos. The 1978 Boys, Cowboys.
Okay.
The 1985 Bears, the Bears. And the 1986 Giants, which could also technically be the 1990 Giants because it was basically the same defense. But so 71 Vikings, 76 Steelers, 77 Broncos, 78 Cowboys, 85 Bears, 86 Giants.
This is easy.
All righty. Radio Pete, you want to go first?
Yeah, well, the Steelers are out because they're the Steelers, obviously.
Of course.
And that wasn't even
That's why nobody picks you on Match Game.
And I can't keep the Crush because they were terrible in the Super Bowl.
All right.
It's not the reason
to not. I think the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys were just better. I think is all it really was. But
so I'll take the Vikings, the Cowboys, the Bears because they beat the Patriots. Got to keep the Bears.
There you go.
And the Giants because
because Michael Strahan wasn't playing for them at that time.
Well, and LT was high on crack and he was still great. So.
Probably the best core of linebackers to ever play
crack.
the game together.
Like... Whatever.
He probably invented crack.
Mark that down. Another person we can't have on the show.
He had some coke in his hand. He just squeezed it and it came out as a rock. Yeah. He's like, hey.
I mean, back in exactly. There you go. Yeah, it's like it meant different to him have a Coke and a smile. He just took it the wrong way. So.
Yeah.
All right.
Now, listen, honestly, I really do like LT. I mean, the guy's insane. He's a monster.
Of course.
Yeah, he's it's almost like he's the best football player to ever play the game.
It's similar. It's something like that.
He's no Ryan Tannehill. But
this is true. Who is, though?
Who is?
No one is. Right. Not even Ryan Tannehill.
No Brock. He's no Brock Osweiler.
He's no Brock Osweiler. Oh, jeez. All right. Harry Lug Nutz, please give us your 4.
Okay. Well,
or the 2 you're getting rid of, one or the other.
Look, you got to keep the Vikings. It's maybe the best defensive line of all time.
Right.
The 76 Steelers, arguably, and people are going to say the Bears, but I think the 76 Steelers might have been the best overall defense to ever play, and they won a Super Bowl that year.
Sure.
This 85 Bears and the 86 Giants, I mean, they have to be on that list. I'm going to take off the Broncos. I'm going to take off the 78 Cowboys. 78 Cowboys, I think their offense was actually better than their defense.
Their defense was very good that year, but their offense was better, and which is why, and as good as the
And let me any of these defenses I would take in a
of
heartbeat.
course. Well, any of these on these
but
lists.
The two I'm going to get rid of are the Broncos and the Cowboys. Good year for music, not a great year for defenses. But 71 Vikings, 76 Steelers, 85 Bears, 86 Giants. If I had to list them in order, it'd probably be the 85 Bears and 76 Steelers tied for first, 71 Vikings second, and the 86 Giants.
There you go. All right. Very good. All right. Well, that kind of stole my thunder on the next part of this quiz.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, so we're going to rank them?
I don't want you to rank them. I just want you to pick the number one of those four that you picked.
Oh. Let's see.
And Harry already said he's tying the 76 Steelers and the 85 Bears.
Yeah, look, the 85 Bears, it has become ubiquitous for people to pick them as the best defense of all time, and I get it. But that 76 Steelers team, I don't know. I'm not sure there's anything separating those two. So I'm gonna tie them. I'm gonna give them a tie.
Gotcha.
Well, fortunately, I don't have that dilemma. So I will put the Bears first. I'll put the Vikings. And honestly, the Giants and the Cowboys.
Okay, in that order.
Yep.
Bears, Vikings, Giants, Cowboys.
Bears,
All right.
Vikes, Giants, Cowboys.
There you go. All right. I will. I'll just throw my 2 cents worth in. If I had to pick one, my four would have been Harry's four, and if I had to pick one, it would be the Steelers. Maybe I'm still a little, almost, approaching 40 years later, still a little bitter that the Giants lost as bad as they did in the divisional game in the divisional round to the Bears in the 85.
They made up
playoffs,
for it,
but
though.
They made up for it the year later. No, they did.
The year later or a couple of years later?
A year later. The next year they won.
Then they beat him again in 90, right?
And they beat him in the. Well, no, they didn't. I mean, they made up for it by winning the Super Bowl, but they didn't make up for it by beating them in the playoffs. They beat them in the playoffs.
They didn't beat the Bears in the playoffs until 90.
Until 90, yeah, they beat them in the divisional.
They beat the Bears and the 49ers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And who did they had to play a wild card game that year, right?
The Giants?
Yeah, or did they just play two playoff games?
Two playoff games.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 playoff games. That was it. The first 2 Super Bowls they only played. They didn't play any wild card games.
That's right.
They were the divisional winner, and they had. They were the number 1 seed in '86. They were the number 2 seed behind Frisco in '90.
Yeah, I mean that's the other thing too is that to your point earlier, I think if you really look at what the 90 Giants were a little older. LT wasn't as dominant, but
here we go.
But man, that 90 Giants defense might be what they pulled off at the end of the season. Might have been more impressive than what the 86 Giants did.
It's very true. There was.
And they knocked out some good teams.
They did.
Sure did.
They really did. And they had help. They had help in the secondary from a former Cowboy.
That's right.
That year,
who I believe made it to the cover of Sports Illustrated.
That would be true. Yeah, Everson Walls. That was his picture on the cover of SI that year after the Super Bowl win. You agree with that, Radio Pete?
Sure. He was definitely on that team.
He was. He was no longer on your second team. So, all right, cool.
Was he on that 78 team? He wasn't on the 78 team.
No. Everson Walls came, I think it was like 80, 81. He went on the Cowboys. He was on the Cowboys for, I think, 9 years, and then he went to the Giants for a few.
Gave the Cowboys his best years, and then
won a Super Bowl with the Giants.
Limped through a couple of years and had the Giants carry him to a Super Bowl ring.
He played well, but He didn't play well for long for the Giants.
No, it was very short
They
stint.
you know how they count minutes for NBA players. I think Parcells was counting steps for both Otis Anderson and Everson Walls.
Yeah, exactly.
They were definitely on account.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, do you think about it? O.J. Anderson was playing. He started with the Cards in the 70s. So
started in 56 with the Browns, right? When they were in St. Louis.
56 with the St. Louis Browns, right? Yeah. The baseball team.
That's right.
When they became the Orioles, he switched to football. There you go.
Right.
Anyway, all right, cool. There's our quiz tonight. That's a different one. Little mixing it up a little bit there.
Yeah.
We only got another week of football quizzes, and then. Maybe we'll do one after the Super Bowl.
2 weeks, right?
2 weeks.
We'll have next week and the Super Bowl.
And the week after the Super Bowl. Yeah, that's true. We can do that, and then we'll switch gears up a little bit. So, all right. Let's
nothing but hockey till July.
Nothing but hockey until July 4th.
Hockey quiz.
See you guys in July.
Come on, there can be no wrong answers.
This is true.
Or if there are, my point is, if there are, who's going to?
Want to talk about the 1978 Islanders Rangers rivalry? I'm all in. Anything other than that?
Well, that's my
how
point.
Martin Brodeur was. Yeah,
we can all say whatever we want, but none of us could really correct. Necessarily.
I mean, if
you're
we're
wrong about that.
I mean, we should have just an episode of just literally quoting Slapshot. Then,
right? We can do that. Why not? All right. Cool. Let's move on to some NFL talk. There's so many things to talk about, and I don't say that tongue in cheek.
There's some news going on.
There's a little bit.
This is usually a week. This is usually the quiet week.
I know.
It's usually next week where somebody goes off the deep end and with the hooker in Vegas before the Super Bowl.
Right.
You know.
All right, so let's start off with what I think is going to be Pete's favorite topic to discuss.
The Pro Bowl.
Right now,
That's right.
which is going to be the retirement that finally got confirmed, if you will, today.
Oh yeah, all right, go ahead. I don't want to ruin the surprise.
Yes, Jimmy Garoppolo is
retiring.
Here's my question: did he retire, unretire, and retire, or did somebody just jump the gun?
Somebody jumped the gun.
Somebody went. We announced it first. And
the speculation is that I heard from a couple of different reports. The speculation that I heard was he's filming these whatever the man in the whatever the hell man on the moon, whatever the hell the name of the show is that he's doing.
He's playing Andy Kaufman in a remake of Man on the Moon.
He's playing Man on the Moon. Yeah. No, he's what the hell's it called?
I don't know. I don't care.
Man in the Bubble,
Man of the Year,
Man of something or whatever.
Man of War.
Anyway, the last episode, I don't know whether he shot it already. He was going to shoot it or whatever. The last episode was basically going to be him saying, goodbye, and he's retiring through that, and then it would come out, kind of thing. Somebody caught wind of it and just announced it and rolled with it last.
Oh, okay. So it was correct, but it wasn't officially announced.
But it wasn't officially announced. He wanted to. I think what I heard was this was airing the last episode that was going to air after the Super Bowl. So none of this was going to go on until after the Super Bowl, and then he was going to, and especially because, he was thinking of doing this, and he might have been playing in the Super Bowl because this was going on from before he lost.
He was pretty close. They were pretty darn close, and I think they would have beat the 49ers.
Right.
So,
but. Whatchamacallit. So this would have gone on. But somebody caught wind of it and rolled with it. Boom, boom, boom. Went around ESPN, and ESPN just blurted it out on Saturday. And then his father tried to backtrack it, and his agent kind of said this and that and everything else. And finally, he's like, well, fuck it. It's out there. What am I going to do? All right, I'm done. That
couple of pieces of news this week went like that.
Yeah, I mean, it got squashed pretty quickly by something else.
At least there wasn't a text or anything that got, misplaced or
missed.
That makes three. That makes three. I was talking.
I thought if Bill Belichick was going to fuck anybody, it would have been Brady and not the Giants.
Unbelievable. But anyway, yes. So Tom Brady.
So
Tom Brady's retiring.
Tom Brady is retired.
Tom Brady's retiring. Made it official. He's signing a one-day contract with the Pats. He might have already done it. I don't know, but he's signing a one-day contract with the Pats.
It's going to be their first playoff game next year.
But let me.
If they get,
he didn't say when. He didn't say when.
Mac and cheese.
I got this. You sit down.
I probably could have looked this up, but has anyone in his last year as quarterback in an NFL led the league in yardage and touchdowns?
No. I don't even have to look to tell you that.
Has anyone thrown more touchdowns in their 40s than their 20s?
No. And his last game that he played, he lost, obviously, but his last game that he played, he actually came back late in the thd quarter from a down 27-3.
Yeah.
So,
but he went out a loser.
I think that Giselle has been barking in his ear for a long time for him to get the hell out. I honestly thought I thought it was going to be one more year. But I think at the end of the day, I think I think the writing was on the wall that this Tampa Bay Bucks team just couldn't necessarily hold together the talent that they needed. I mean, they were kind of on thin ice. Now look, he fell 3 points short of going to another NFC Championship game without 3 of his starting offensive line.
Very true. Very true.
Arguably the second best receiver on the team, or maybe the best receiver on the team, albeit a nut job, and some major injuries on the defensive side. So yeah, I mean, only Elway, right? Is Elway the only one who sort of rode off on the white horse? I don't think anybody else is really.
Peyton Manning.
Peyton Manning, but Peyton Manning sort of limped off.
Peyton Manning limped. He had to be helped onto the.
There was like there was 2 Peyton Mannings. There was the Indianapolis Colts Peyton Manning, and then arguably the best years of Peyton Manning with the Broncos, where they didn't win the Super Bowl. Right. And then let's hope that he can play in the playoffs in the Super Bowl. Peyton Manning, who, was instrumental, but let's face it, that Broncos defense and Von Miller won that Super Bowl.
Yeah, they definitely did.
But yeah, I just think it's hard. It's hard to time it right. And obviously he thought he had another chance. He played, arguably had his best year this year. I mean, it's insane. I didn't think I'd see this day until next year, but good for him. People can talk about Brady all they want. They know, you guys know how I feel. It's unless you just know nothing about football, or you're just going to make it emotional. Mm-hmm. And I don't really know how you can't like this guy. Even the stupid Deflategate, which is utter nonsense. I mean, look, Brady's a competitor, and he's the best. And if you look at his career, he went from really kind of developing from a quarterback that won a Super Bowl, but wasn't the reason why, the only reason why he wasn't the MVP of the team,
right? To
at the age of 44 being arguably the MVP of the league. That's insane.
It is pretty insane. It's pretty shocking that it worked out that way. But hey, you know what? There's
I heard it. He's actually is going to play next year, and that he really wants to prove how good he is by playing for the Giants.
Oh, there you go.
Did he ever actually graduate from college? He might want to go back and finish his degree.
There you go.
Probably has a year of eligibility left.
That's right. That's sociology.
Can you imagine your eligibility? A 45-year-old.
I don't think.
And then he'll enter the draft after that.
Yeah. That would make Jim Harbaugh stay in Michigan.
Yeah, I think it might. I think it just might. Well, anyway, I don't know. So, to be quite honest with you, I kind of hope Jim Harbaugh takes the Vikings job, because from what I heard, it's down to 2 people, and that would be Jim Harbaugh and Patrick Graham. And I kind of want
Jim Harbaugh and Brian Flores.
Yeah, Harbaugh and Brian Flores.
Well, I think Flores is going to wind up. Are we going to talk about the elephant in the room?
Oh, hell yeah. No, I was segueing into it.
I think Flores will wind up with a job.
Yeah, in the NFL's front office.
HR department.
Right.
Look, here's my question with Harbaugh, though, because all we heard about Harbaugh was, no, he's not interested. He's not interested. Now, all of a sudden, he's interested in the Vikings.
I guess it's a closer ride from Michigan.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Maybe he was really interested.
Well, let me ask you a question, John. I mean, Pete, you could chime in, but I don't know if you have care as much, but because it's a Giants question. But would you rather have Harbaugh than Brian Daboll?
Would I rather have Jim Harbaugh than Brian Daboll?
Yeah,
probably. Yeah.
I'm hopeful
for Brian Daboll.
Was Harbaugh just holding back? I mean, if I'm Jim Harbaugh, I'd much rather go to the Giants or the Broncos or the Dolphins or, the Raiders than I would Minnesota. What does he see in Minnesota?
I don't know.
Well, it's everything he likes. It's a complete rebuild, a shitty quarterback.
True.
Promising special teams and and maybe some draft picks. I mean, look, what he did with the 49ers was impressive.
Yeah.
But he sort of just left. It was for his dream job, in college football. So why is he a candidate for the Vikings and not any of these other? Does this not strike you as odd?
It definitely strikes me as odd. Definitely.
Okay.
No, it makes no sense that, I mean, why wasn't he a little bit more, proactive in getting the, getting out to Vegas for the Raiders or talking to the Maras and the Tishes for the,
could it be a question of control?
It very well could be.
Versus maybe the Vikings.
Yeah, but I mean, they have
to give him all those keys. And
that's true too. Yeah,
that's true. That's true. But I don't think he had that much control in San Francisco, and maybe that's to your point. Maybe that's your point.
Yeah, maybe that's what he wants now. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I think if the Vikings after all of this can land, and look, I have my criticisms of Jim Harbaugh too. I don't think he's necessarily going to automatically bring a team a championship, but I do think it's an interesting pick, and I think after him having coached in college and having relative success, I would say, he would be a very interesting choice. I don't know. I just find the whole Jim Harbaugh resurfacing to be very odd.
Yeah, I think it's a little weird too. But I you know what? Again, to your point, I think that, a team that probably would be a little bit more up there. You know what? I mean, but Minnesota really is not, they're not the Jags, they're not,
no.
It's a good team, they put it, I mean, it's a better team than most. How's that? If they can, I mean, obviously the elephant in the room for the Vikings would be the team on the other side of Wisconsin, but, and who knows what's going to happen there? Rodgers retires or goes to Denver, then all bets are off for the Vikings at that point. You get Jim Harbaugh and a couple other pieces in there, and the division is theirs. You'd think maybe the Bears are, going to do something, but they're going to have a first-year coach too. So
Justin Fields is having his 27th surgery.
Lovely.
No, I'm sorry. Is it just who did I? It wasn't Justin Fields that was having surgery. It was what was it? Who was it that I? Oh, I'm sorry. Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts. Yes, you're right. You're absolutely
All right.
right.
So let's take a look at the Vikings. Do you want to go back? Let's go back 20 some odd years. Let's go back to 2000. No. Just
let's go back to 1963.
Since 2000, okay. They've had. I'll just go through their wins.
Mm-hmm.
11, 5, 6, 9, 8, 9, 6, 8, 10, 12, 6, 3, 10, 5, 7, 11, 8, 13, 8, 10, 7.
Okay.
So they haven't had. What they have? 1 3-win season that I mentioned?
One.
They had Adrian Peterson for a chunk of that.
Yeah. So they had a 5-win season. They had a 6-win season. They had 1 3, a couple 6s, a couple 5s, and a couple 7s. Everything else was 500 or better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no,
So
they're
this
winning.
is not
they're winning.
a dirge of a team that
No.
year after year after year is terrible. And that
No.
might be something of interest to a guy like Harbaugh.
Well, and here's the other thing, timing-wise, with the Harbaugh resurgence and Jimmy Garoppolo saying, hey, my time in San Francisco is up, is I could picture Jim Harbaugh saying, yeah, I'll take Jimmy Garoppolo.
Right.
I mean, he's the perfect quarterback for a Jim Harbaugh team.
Yeah.
He's Jim Harbaugh.
This is true. He is. He really is.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think Jim Harbaugh sort of laid low, and then all of a sudden, I think he already had his sights on this. And yeah, I mean, hey, look, if Minnesota can get Jim Harbaugh, I think that's the hire of the offseason. I really do.
And look, maybe this. I don't know if this is something he wants or not, but maybe that's a place where he can fly under the radar just a little bit.
Well, we got breaking news via Adam Schefter less than an hour ago. And it's very apropos for this particular conversation because, according to Adam Schefter, Jim Harbaugh is staying in Michigan.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
So there you go. Which means that if that is true, and the only other coach that could be hired in Minnesota would be Patrick Graham, then the Giants and Brian Daboll are going to have to look for another defensive coordinator. So,
which let's talk about that for a second because I like Patrick Graham, and I do think Patrick Graham did some good things with the Giants. But if you're Patrick Graham,
right,
and you were a candidate for the head coaching job and you put in your time at the organization, obviously they went a different route with Daboll.
Right.
Maybe it's a good thing. I think that there's other defensive coordinators out there. Look, I mean, if we want to get a defensive coordinator down here, well, maybe bring Buffalo's defensive coordinator.
I was going to say, why not bring another Buffalo guy? You got the assistant GM, right? You got their offensive coordinator. You got their quarterbacks coach now.
The Meadowlands is just as nice as Buffalo,
and it's blue. Also.
Oh yeah.
No, I like Patrick Graham, and I hope he gets a head coaching job. I do, and who knows if he's going to get the Viking job or not. But I sort of appreciate the Giants holding on to him, and I appreciate his willingness to stick around. But I think he did a good job, but you can't say that Giants defense, it was at any point this season cohesive.
No, it wasn't.
Well, you can say it, but it wouldn't be true.
And I think that's
true. You could.
I think that he did the best with what he had, but I just felt like on both sides of the ball, the Giants were lacking discipline and lacking sort of just some basic critical game thinking. It was just, they just made some boneheaded moves at times. And that comes down to coaching, I think.
It definitely does. Sure. It's a big part of it. It's a huge part of it. All right. Let's, speaking of the Giants, so we brought that up. Okay. Brian Daboll got hired as the head coach last Friday. Apparently, this was something that, according to Mara, that came down to the 11th hour before they decided because they were hot on a couple of people. But before we move forward with obviously what obviously we're going to talk about, I just want your take on it. What do you think about Brian Daboll? Both, either of you.
I think Daboll was. I think you knew it was going to be Daboll when the Giants made their decision on GM, and I like Daboll. Obviously, he took what some people would say was a very talented but raw quarterback and a really good offense. It turned them into, one of the juggernauts offensively, and they were one play away, they were a defense away from going to the AFC Championship game, and who knows? I don't know enough about Daboll to say, okay, I feel better about Daboll than I certainly did about Joe Judge or Pat Shurmur or keep the list going.
Or the new offensive coordinator for the Panthers.
Right, exactly. I mean, I feel as if this is a natural progression for Daboll, and I think that there were a lot of people interested in him.
Right.
Time will tell. I think he needs some pieces around him, and I think getting a veteran defensive coordinator. I think what Giants fans understand is that the Giants are not going to become the Buffalo Bills.
No.
The Giants have to go back to being the Giants. The Giants have to be the San Francisco 49ers is what the Giants have to be. And I think getting a defensive coordinator who's going to get the best out of this defense, but also make this a team that is focused on defense and taking the pressure off of Daniel Jones in the offense is going to make the Giants more successful. They have to be able to run the ball. They have to be able to rebuild that offensive line, which I think Daboll will be good at. And I think they need to have more of a balanced attack on offense. And they have to have a top 5 defense in the next coming years for the Giants to be successful. Even in the Eli years when they beat Tom Brady, the Giants were not an offensive juggernaut. They were a defensive team. And where they've fallen short is their defensive line. They don't have the dominance of the defensive line that they used to have. And if they can get back to that, then the Giants maybe can put together a couple winning seasons, even with Daniel Jones as a quarterback.
Mm-hmm. Well, see, that's the whole thing. And I'll bring that up too. Like, keeping clearly they're high on keeping Daniel Jones, or not high, but they're
high.
They're high, but
they were high when they drafted him.
They're intending to keep Daniel Jones. They almost have to, though, right? I mean, who else? I mean, they're not.
There's nobody else out there.
There's nobody else out there. They're not trading for a big name quarterback.
Russell Wilson's not coming to New York.
No, Aaron Rodgers is not coming to New York. They're not. They could probably get Jimmy G, but but how much better is Jimmy G than Daniel Jones? I mean, I'm not going to say he's not, but seriously, how much? And what what San Francisco is going to want back for him if they're going to go that route, if they're going to cut ties with him and trade him. He has 1 year left in his contract out there. So if they're going to cut ties with him and move right up to Trey Lance, they're going to want to trade him. They don't want to just let him go, right? They're going to want to get something back from him. So what are the Giants actually going to gain with Jimmy Garoppolo for one season and give up?
Yeah, it's a moot point. I think Garoppolo. I think he winds up in a place. I know they just invested in Carson Wentz, but I could picture Garoppolo on the Colts. A team with a defense that's on the rise, a great running game, and a guy who could probably control the ball in critical situations a little bit better than Carson Wentz.
I have a couple ideas on that, and let's talk about that when we get to the 49ers game. But sticking with that, again, they almost have to keep Daniel Jones, and
they are.
Is that why? Also, think about that. Is that why? And based on to your point that you just said, is that why? Was that one of the contributing factors in hiring Brian Daboll because of what he did with Josh Allen?
Sure, and I think
they feel bad. They want to work with Daniel Jones. He's had 3 years of two different coaches and no guidance really that he should have had, or enough of what he should have had. So could that have been other than just okay, it was Joe Shane's buddy from Buffalo, right? There's a reason. There's a reason behind it, and it's also offensive too. But anyway,
right. I think reality has to be anybody who's going to come in and say, hey, we're going to turn Daniel Jones into Josh Allen is smoking something that, I've never seen before.
Right.
It makes Jerry Garcia, proud. I think what will make Daniel Jones successful is if the Giants can get Saquon Barkley to 50% of where he was in his first year, or someone else in that role. The Giants have to be able to run the ball, and they have to play better defense. That will take if Daboll thinks that he's going to turn this offense into Daniel Jones throwing 44 times a game.
No, I don't think he is. And I heard something like that, but a few people were speculating and talking about that. He's not gonna. He's got to utilize what he has there. He's got to utilize Saquon Barkley or whoever else. And get a running game, a solid grind-out running game going. He's got to utilize Daniel Jones when necessary to run because he can. Let's face it, he can.
Yeah.
Maybe not far without tripping, but he can run. All right.
I think Daniel Jones can run just as well as Josh Allen.
I agree.
Just as well as Joe Burrow.
He's very similar in stature, if you will, or build or whatever to Josh Allen. But and then the other fact of the matter is he's going to throw the ball, right? He does have a cannon for an arm. He's just got to control it a little bit more and not do what Jimmy G did at the end of that game. More on that later. It's called foreshadowing, folks. Anyway, so, I mean, it is what it is there. But that brings us to the biggest elephant in the room.
Wait. Do you want my thoughts on Brian Daboll?
Oh, crap. Yeah. I'm sorry. I thought my bad.
All right. Generally speaking, I think it's a lot to ask to bring in a neophyte GM, although he comes from a successful program,
right,
and a neophyte head coach, and expect them both to have success. Mm-hmm. It's difficult. It's a lot to ask. A lot of pieces have to fall into the right position. And I feel like the Giants are kind of making a mistake with the coach in that respect. I would have thought they would have brought in somebody with head coaching experience. We talked about this last week. We need to rehash all that.
Who would have been?
I know that's exactly. I understand. Well, listen. There's a guy who's filing a lawsuit, and we're finding out that a lot of the shit that the Dolphins were talking was bullshit about why he was let go. Anyway.
Yeah, we all scratched our head as to why he was fired, and now we know.
Exactly. But anyway, it's a lot to ask to fill those two positions with brand new guys and do that. Daniel Jones seems to have some talent, but Josh Allen has always been from day one a better quarterback than Daniel Jones. Most likely will ever be. Sure. So I don't know what you expect. Obviously, it's not, you can't expect Brian Daboll to turn Daniel Jones into Josh Allen, but if that's what Daboll's good at, is taking a raw, extremely talented quarterback and turning him into Josh Allen. Why are you bringing him in if you don't have that on the Giants?
The Giants have to stick with Daniel Jones because there's nobody else out there, and he has one more year left.
I agree with you.
If anybody, unless Daniel Jones turns into an amazing quarterback, if the Giants are done with Daniel Jones after this year.
Unless something happens and we're all sitting there like halfway through next season saying, "Oh my God." Wow. I'm saying, whether it can or it won't or whatever is irrelevant. My point is, if it does happen, that's a different story. But, beyond that, he'll be gone. But again, there's nobody available, and there's nobody in the draft. There's no real good quarterbacks in the draft. There's speculation on a couple here and there, but it's not. Yeah, it's not.
It might be the first draft.
Daboll might have the goods to be a good head coach.
Right.
I don't know what other jobs he was interviewing for as head coach. But obviously I guess people have been talking about him. We'll wait and see. I think at least as much as anything, probably not more. I'm not going to say more, but at least as much as anything, it's familiarity is a big reason why he's there, because the guy who's running the show came from Buffalo, and he that's his guy, and they know each other, and there's nothing bad about that. That's probably a smart idea,
right?
But I'm not that confident.
I agree.
Both those positions are gonna work out.
No, and I don't think it's going to be immediate. What I want to see is a change in just going from a complete laughingstock. The Giants might win 5 games next year. If they win 6, it'll be 5-6. If they win 7, hallelujah, have a parade. I'm not looking for the Giants to make it back to the playoffs next year. What I'm looking for is the Giants to move in the right direction and start to put the right pieces in place, and then allow these guys to do what they do best, which is to bring talent in that's going to eventually build this team. I'd rather see the Giants build their offensive line, reestablish a running game, reestablish the defensive line and the ability for the defense to be a top 5 defense. And then we'll see who's available in free agency. We'll see who's available 2 years from now as a quarterback.
I agree with you about all those things. Yeah. I'm just not sure any of those things are Brian Daboll's wheelhouse.
Well, but I do think that the GM, it is. I think that they did go out and they were able to assemble a pretty good team, and a lot of it was through the draft.
Yeah. I think what's the GM's name?
Joe Shane.
If I had to say, if you said one of these two is going to be successful, which one is more likely? I'd say Shane, because he's he was right there doing what he what he needs to do with the Giants as far as picking players and stuff like that.
I think Daboll, the difference between Daboll and a lot of other people who have come from this position is that I think he's kind of innovative. And I also think he's a good, if you look at the Bills offense the last 3 years, it's been 3 different offenses really in some ways. He's able to
he's able to adapt to
he's able to progress the offense as they were definitely a little bit more balanced and run oriented, and slowly as things happened, injuries occurred and talent shifted. Their offense shifted as well. And you could arguably say that maybe 2 years ago was their best year, although the Bills certainly came on at the end of the year and were but my point being is that I think that's what the Giants were lacking. Yeah. I think the Giants, you would expect the Giants to go out and get a defensive-minded coach, but in reality, I think you have to go with the offensive guys in today's NFL. And I do think that he's still one of those people who can look at what they have and create an offense that's going to at least take the best advantage of what they have. I don't think Judge did that. I don't think that any of the offensive coordinators, how many did they have this year? It seems like 4, but I think it was just 2. I just think that there's some new blood in there, and it's not and I think it helps.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at Buffalo's offense, even this past season, there was about the third quarter of the season where they weren't running a lot, and they stopped having Josh Allen basically run.
Yep.
Unless it was out of desperation, they shifted and it became a drop back and pass offense, and they struggled. They had a couple of bad losses, and they adjusted and got stronger through the end of the season. They made the changes they need to, and I think they had some injuries that players that returned and stuff, but they kind of they became a little different offense for a few games,
right?
And it just wasn't working, and they were able to come out of that. So
what I like about the Bills' offense is that they put a lot of emphasis on protecting Josh Allen. And Josh Allen did not get knocked around a lot. And that is something that alone, if the Giants can shift their ability to, they have 2 top 10 draft picks. If they can't pick 2 offensive linemen who can come in and start right away, then you should be able to find 2 offensive linemen in the top, 7 picks?
Yep.
Yeah.
To be able to play within the first 2 years of their NFL career. You should be able to do that.
You should
all
be
the
able.
time.
And every single mock draft that I've seen so far has them picking with they got 5 and 7, right? They pick
4 and 7.
4 and 7.
4 and 5.
One of them, 4 or 5 and 7. Yeah. With the first pick, have them taking an offensive lineman. With the second pick, have them taking a defensive back.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That was a linebacker. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, they may surprise you.
By the time the draft comes, we'll have to analyze all 73 mock drafts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, they may. I mean, after Evan McPherson, they might be taking a kicker with the second pick. Who knows? But in any event, Graham Gano is pretty good. But in any event, yeah. Look, I sorry about that, Pete. I spaced and.
No, it's okay.
But in any event, no, they. Yeah. Look, I think that. I'm much happier today after these hires than I was 2 years ago after the Joe Judge hire. That was just them backpedaling and circling the wagon, so to speak, because their guy in Matt Rule, wound up in Carolina. So, but
yeah, but nobody was saying, "Oh, Joe Judge is going to suck and be miserable."
No,
I did.
Yeah, but here's my thing.
Okay,
here's my thing.
No one but Harry.
And I said it last week, and I'll bring it up really quick, just for 10 seconds. People have been talking about Brian Daboll for years, speculating he's going to wind up getting a head coaching position for what he's doing in Buffalo and how good a coach he is and so forth and so on. The name's been around the league, and not just in the Giants circles, around the league, all right? No, who knew who Joe Judge was, before the Giants hired him?
It's
almost a desperation. They called up Belichick. Hey, Bill, help. We need somebody. They took Matt Rule. Who should we take? Oh, I got Joe Judge here. He'll be good. Okay, send him down. Good.
Maybe we should cut off correspondence with Bill Belichick.
It's probably a good idea, and that's a good segue into the
Speaking of correspondence.
Speaking of correspondence with Bill Belichick.
Letters from Bill.
Bill Belichick, the Vladimir Putin of
texting.
I mean, I know where you're going to go, but let me throw this out there. Bill Belichick is not going to text the wrong person on accident. Bill Belichick is stirring the fucking pot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about that.
I do.
And I'll put something else to that, and then Pete answer back. I'll add to what he's saying. I kind of agree with that. However, he has to. If that wasn't a complete accident, and it wasn't because he's really close with Brian Daboll, okay?
He's close with Brian Flores too.
Right. Well, I mean, really close. Like talks to him every day. They go out to dinner twice a week. Kind of close. Why would he tell him before the Giants told him? You know what I mean? Even if he didn't erroneously text Brian Flores and actually did text Brian Daboll, why would he send that text before the Giants even made the decision, or even if they did make the decision, before they actually made it official and told Brian Daboll? You know what I'm saying? So he either is the biggest moron in the world, or he's stirring shit. Go ahead.
But we know he's not the biggest moron in the world.
Right.
Well, it's
irregardless.
It's such a better story if he was stirring the pot in a sense. It has a lot more intrigue.
Well, the Giants fired his boy and Joe Judge, right? So he had to get back at them.
Yeah,
I don't think any of his guys are his boys.
No, I agree with that. I don't think he's going to, because he looks like an idiot.
I think he gave Josh McDaniel a commemorative.
Doddering, confused old man who can't keep two guys named Brian straight. I don't think he's going to do that. No. I mean, what is the point of him, coming out with this? Well,
because I think it's his way of maybe helping to realize of what, Look, I still think there's some
support Flores in his lawsuit and his cause. Now you don't have to make yourself look like a moron to do that.
I don't think he's making himself look like a moron. I think there's still some ill will with the Giants with Belichick.
It's a laugh though. He texted the wrong guy. What an idiot. I don't think he's going to do that to himself. He could just come out and say, I'm with Brian Flores and this and that. I don't think he would make himself look foolish in order to do that. So, as delicious a story as it would be, it's stirring the pot.
Yeah.
I don't think.
I don't know. What
I agree with you. I don't think he wants revenge for Joe Judge getting fired. He can give two shits about it.
No, but I do think that he. I think Belichick has some issues with the Giants, and I think that I don't think he minds seeing I think he's reveling a little bit in the Giants' demise.
I don't think this is as much about the Giants. If anything, I think this is more of a shot at Goodell and the league,
maybe,
and the policy,
although
the effectiveness of the Rooney Rule, and the fact that
but you can't blame the league on this. I mean, I think the league.
Sure, you can.
Well, if you think the rule is not.
Well, the rule is a farce, and everybody knows it.
Well, but the intent of the rule isn't a farce. What they were trying to do, I think, is in the right direction.
Okay, but how long has the Rooney Rule been in place?
I don't know.
It's been a while, and it's a miserable failure, and they're not doing anything else about it, and they're not punishing teams that are basically, making a joke out of it, and everyone knows it.
Well, let me ask you this, and I'm not taking sides, and I'm not disagreeing with you by any means, okay? Because it as much of a farce as it may be, as Harry said, its intent is good. But let me ask you this: how do you control it? How do you actually, other than speculation here, right? Other than saying, okay, Team X, okay, you need to hire a head coach. You need to, interview these guys, and you have to interview at least whatever, that kind of a thing. And then when you have all your interviews, you have to make a spreadsheet of every category and give it scores and so forth and so on. And then when you're done with all of those, submit them to us, and we will have an impartial judge look at them and see who your next head coach is going to be. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not putting what anybody's saying down by any means. Don't take it that way. But how do you control that? How do you actually say, I mean, short of saying, okay, somebody has to hire an African-American this year or something like that. How do you actually control that? Again, I'm not saying that they're wrong.
No,
that the rules are wrong. I'm just saying, how do you control it? Tell me.
I don't know.
It's not sarcasm. I'm not being rhetorical. I'm actually asking you.
I understand. I don't have all the answers for that.
Right.
But that doesn't mean the problem doesn't exist.
Right. No,
that doesn't mean that their solution is completely ineffective.
Right.
And it does mean that they're allowing that to continue to happen and not doing anything else. And I think that's where the real problem is.
Well,
that this is not working. Everyone knows it's not working, and they just want to keep it hush-hush.
Hockey aside, because it's such a monolithic white endeavor.
Right.
If you look at the other sports of basketball and baseball, how did we get to a point where there's much more diversity there? I mean, I don't see as much diversity in ownership, but I do see more diversity when it comes to head coaches or managers. So how did we get there?
I don't know. How much more diversity is there? What are the numbers? How many black coaches in the NBA are there?
More than one.
Yeah, there's one, and there were three. There were three this previous.
How many NBA teams are there?
What, 28?
30.
30?
30. Okay, so if there's 5 black head coaches, is that good because it's 5 times as much as the NFL?
Well, I'm not. I mean, I can't answer that. But
how did they get there? Is your question?
But we had a head coach 55 years ago. with Bill Russell. You know, I mean, it seems as if I don't know. I mean, I think I don't know what the numbers are, but if I go through it, it's certainly going to be a lot more than one.
What's our guy's name? Is it Jimmy or Johnny?
Jimmy.
Jimmy, get on it.
Jimmy, get on
Black
it.
NBA coaches right now. Yeah, I agree with you. It's going to be more than one.
I think there's 10 head coaches that are black.
Okay, so
a third of the league.
That's pretty damn good compared to one, certainly.
Sure.
I don't know how
there are 13 black coaches.
Black head coaches?
I don't know. I'm reading here. I'm trying to pull to start. Yeah, I'm assuming head coaches to start the 2021-2022 season, and is one shy of the all-time high, which was at the start of the 2012-2013 season.
Right.
Okay. So that's a great question. How'd the NBA get there when the NFL does not? Now, I would also want to look at the ownership numbers, because I would imagine that
I
that think too is of greater diversity.
I doubt it. I mean, recently, yeah, with Russians owning, and there's minority.
Yeah, but they don't count.
I think what does occur at other sports is that there's more group ownership, and when you have group ownership, you have especially when it's even the Lakers. I mean, look, having a female owner is different, and certainly something that we usually don't see all the time, with the exception of the ex-owner of the St. Louis Rams, who certainly was not helping the case.
Not so much.
I don't know. I don't know what the numbers are, but I'm just saying is that it is ridiculous that in a sport that is what I'm guessing 80%,
70, I believe,
70% black, that we have one head coach, and even if we have three, it's and the other thing that's glaring is how many of these coordinators who year after year are denied head coaching based on perceived character flaws, which is like what we used to judge people who were Japanese back. It just seems, it just stinks. Well, and I think that Brian Flores has done something that a lot of other people have not been willing to do, which is essentially say, hey, look, I don't care about my career anymore. I'm gonna talk about this and bring this to the surface.
This is bigger than my career. I still want to coach.
Of course it is.
But this is bigger than that. And look what Miami did.
Right.
Regarding him, right? He couldn't get along with Tagovailoa. And what else did they say? He pissed off other players, whatever it was, rubbed some of his coaches the wrong way.
Right. All of
when
that.
Now, as we get more reporting on this,
he wouldn't tank games. Yeah.
He wouldn't tank games. And, there were a couple other things. He wouldn't follow he wouldn't I'll use a terrible metaphor. He wouldn't goose step to ownership's tune. And so they got rid of him, and they brought him in apparently just to tank so they could get a good high draft pick, and then bring in somebody else to build the program and win. Only unfortunately he didn't follow the plan, and they had to get rid of him. The same thing with what's his name in Houston. What's his name? Cullen, yeah. Did that guy really do anything wrong?
No, he had a team. He had a horrible team playing pretty damn good towards the end of the season.
Pretty damn good, and without one of the best
and competing,
quarterbacks
like
in
hard
the league.
competing. Yeah.
But he's gone. Why?
Right.
Because they brought him in to do the dirty work, right? And probably figured they're doing him a favor. Hey, he's going to get a year of head coaching experience under his belt. This will help him get a job somewhere else.
Right.
But you brought him in to lose, and then you're going to hire somebody else to come in and turn things around. I mean, it's look. I'm not going to suggest that the NFL is full of owners that are old racists, and I'm not having a black guy wearing the headphones on my team. Right. I don't think that's the case. But I think probably more of it is. Well, all right. I'll just use the Giants as an example because they have a couple of hires, right? Your GM, your head coach, and apparently your quarterback's coach, right? They all know each other. They came from the same team, and they're all white. That's what you do. You hire people you know. And if they happen to be white, you bring them on board. It's not because you're not going to hire blacks. It's just, I know this guy.
Right. And
he's good, and I want him with me.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up.
I think a lot of that happens.
Right.
No, it's sort of like a silent kind of racism. It's not intentional or unintentional, maybe.
I don't know if it's racism. I think it's just homeism,
the
nepotism.
Effect, right. The effect is the same. Yeah, it's more kind of like a friendly version of nepotism.
Right.
Right.
Sure.
I don't think it's anti-African American, but the result is the same.
Sure. No, of course.
These white guys keep, But one final point.
Go ahead.
Because now there's there was stories about Eric Bieniemy, right? We've been talking about Bieniemy. How come he doesn't get a job? How come he doesn't get a job? How come he doesn't get a job?
Right.
And then there were stories about, oh well, he's the coordinator, but he doesn't really have he doesn't always call the plays. Andy Reid calls the plays, and Bieniemy doesn't really have the stature that most coordinators have, and that's why he doesn't get a job. But
I don't know about that.
There's two other guys that had the job before him, whose names I forget. Was it Matt Millen?
Yeah, that's one of them.
And I forget the other guy's name, who had the same job that Bieniemy has now under the same head coach that Bieniemy has now, and they got their head coaching shots. And Andy Reid has even come out and said that story about me calling the plays and overriding him and him not really being that's all bullshit. But that's the sort of bullshit that gets wafted out there.
Right.
And it doesn't get wafted out there about white guys.
Right.
All right, sorry, go ahead.
No, all I was going to say was this lawsuit of his, let's pick it apart for a second. It's four-pronged, if you will. One is the Dolphins. We already talked about that. They want him to tank games, $100,000 to tank a game, and whatever the other crap was that he put in there. But not that it's crap, just the bullshit that Miami was doing to him was crap.
And apparently there are witnesses now who.
Sure.
Who heard the Ross, the general manager, tell them that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you have that. So that's that. Obviously, there's merit and all of that stuff, especially when people are coming forth and saying all of that, right? Switch it over. Denver's in this mix too. That he went out to interview and he sat there for an hour and waited for Elway to get there.
This was 2 years ago. 3 years ago.
3 years ago. Yeah, Elway got there an hour late and he was disheveled and a mess and everything else.
Elway's a scumbag. That's why. And yeah, I'll say it to his face. He's one of the most despicable human beings you'll ever meet on this planet. So there you go. I said it.
You said it.
Where was he on our all-time quarterbacks list?
Yeah, on all-time asshole lists, he's way up there.
Yeah. So him and the GM supposedly were out. It looked like they were hungover. They were out drinking late. They were blah blah blah.
Yeah,
that's a daily occurrence.
Yeah. So anyway, so there's that. But now, and of course, the league is involved in this because obviously the league is the league, and it's kind of the parent to all of this wrongdoing that's going on.
They're not doing anything.
They're not doing anything about it, right? But the Giants, okay, the Giants are mentioned in this because of that. Now, I just want your take, both of you, your take on the whole. From what I've read, and I might not have maybe read more than I did, maybe read into it a little bit more. I didn't see anything. The only thing that he's pointing a finger at the Giants for is not hiring him. Right? I don't think there was anything else in there that it was the obviously the Belichick text and the fact that he was there and if they already made their decision before he even went in for his second interview on Friday.
The second interview was the sham.
Right.
Which is basically part of the whole.
But the reports are that John Mara actually wanted him, and then it went to the 11th hour, and then he deferred to Joe Shane, who wanted, who obviously wanted Brian Daboll, and obviously it was close enough, so he deferred to him, and boom, he hired.
Right, where did those reports come from?
I saw it on SNY, saw it here, or whatever, but I don't know how true any of it is. Obviously, it's all hearsay, right? But the bottom line here is, and again, I'm not putting Brian Flores down by any means in this, okay? But specifically speaking of the Giants, of course, everything else he's, I'm with him. But, if that is true, and the owner wanted Brian Flores. Okay, and he at the end deferred to the general manager because he already promised he's going to leave the decisions up to the general manager, and he deferred to the general manager. And the general manager, whatever vision he had offensively and for his, familiarity with somebody he's worked with that's a very good coach in so forth and so on, he brought in Brian Daboll. If that is the case, and it did happen at the 11th hour after Flores' interview, what wrong did the Giants do?
Okay, but see, that's where the Belichick text comes in.
Right.
Because according to Bill Belichick, he's congratulating Flores, thinking he's Daboll, is the story, right?
Right.
He's saying, hey, I hear you got the job. Now, why Bill Belichick would...
If you read it, it says, it looks like you got the job. And that's number one. So you can speculate on the words he's using, right? The wording. And then I want to hear the rest of that, but I'll throw this in there really quick. I said before, why would Bill Belichick text somebody before the Giants, let them know that it was their job? Okay.
Brian Daboll is his
because
boy.
The Giants maybe have not made a decision yet, and Belichick was kind of letting him know, hey, I think they're leaning your way.
Right. But that's that. And if that's the case, and if that's all it was, and Bill Belichick kind of wrote, I'm not assuming that it is. I'm just throwing this out there speculation wise. If that was indeed the case, and he said that, that's one thing. But the other flip side of that is if John Mara, or for that matter, obviously, I'm sure Joe Shane didn't text Bill Belichick, but why would John Mara get in touch with Bill Belichick and tell him, hey, we're probably hiring your boy Brian Daboll?
It wasn't through Mara. It was through the organization.
Yeah.
But Mara, I don't think Mara knows how to text.
Well, that's the other thing too. If the decision came down to Joe Shane and John Mara, and for that matter, Chris Mara or Steve Tisch, what does somebody else somewhere else in the organization have to say that's going to be confirmed by them to Bill Belichick for him to go back and text and say, hey, it looks like you got the job? You know what I'm saying? It's all speculative. It doesn't look like I just find that the Giants. I'm not even.
The lawsuit should really be targeted at the Dolphins.
The Dolphins
and the NFL.
Right. Yeah.
Here's some stats. Okay, there's been over 70 black head coaches in the history of the NBA. As of right now, there are 4 majority owners who are of minority, and an additional 4 women majority owner in the NBA. So not a ton. Okay. There are 2 minority owners in the NFL. Neither of them are black. One is Korean American. The other one is Pakistani American. And there have been 20 black NFL coaches over the history of the NFL.
20.
70 in the NBA, 20. Currently 1.
Mm-hmm.
So we're kind of moving. I don't know. I realize that we want to live in a world where everybody is judged completely by their merits and their ability to do the job. And that's ideal.
Right.
But it's not the truth. And we heard this for years about quarterbacks, whether it was direct or not. A black guy can't be a quarterback. He can't lead a team to a Super Bowl. He does whatever, all of it based in racism that is essentially there to try to preserve some sort of foothold in whatever it is that people's comfort brings them in knowing that there's a white guy leading their team. And this wasn't that long ago.
Well, it's got to be a while ago, obviously, because back in the '80s, you had Doug Williams winning the Super Bowl. You had, and before that, taking Tampa to the championship game in the '70s. And
yeah, again, how many black quarterbacks were there in the league though when Doug Williams, as a backup, was winning a Super Bowl?
Warren Moon.
Not as many as now is what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay, fair enough.
Yes,
right, fair enough.
It was still prevalent. Okay,
sure.
The NFL has a problem, and unless there's and I'm not sure ownership is going to change that.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be you have to come from major amounts of money to, and this is where opportunity exists, and it's a class issue, but it slants predominantly towards white people who have the billions and billions of dollars in order to team up with their other billionaires to buy sports teams. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but it's obvious that you can't tell me that that there are not 20 qualified African American men or women, or I don't know, who could be a head coach in the NFL. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. There's, it does not make sense to me in today's world. It just doesn't, especially in a sport where we've now seen the predominance of the sport being dominated by African Americans for over 50 years?
Over 50 years, yeah. 40 anyway, but over 50. Over 50, yeah.
Here's how you enforce it, I don't know. Here's how you start to deal with this problem. Who was the former Clippers owner?
Yeah.
Who got shit canned?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's how you deal with it. You force them out.
But
I don't know if you can.
But do we have racist owners?
Well, no, that's the thing. I don't know if you can say, well, you violated the Rooney Rule a couple of times and you're out. That's not going to happen.
I think he also had a black head coach when all that was going on.
I think so. Well, he had a black girlfriend.
Yeah.
All right. I want to. Here's verbatim the text messages.
That was more sexist than anything else.
Yeah. Well, he's right. He was a sexist too. Okay. No, he just didn't want her to bring any black guys around to the game.
No, I get it. Yeah, but then there was also all of the allegations of him, Yeah.
All right, so here's the text, okay? Because I think it's a little bit, to me, when you reread it, it's fairly definitive. All right, Belichick says, "Sounds like you've landed. Congrats." Okay, sounds that way.
Sounds like you've landed.
Sounds like you have landed. Congrats. And Flores says, "Did you hear something I didn't?" Belichick says, "Giants," with many question marks and exclamation points. Flores says, "I interview on Thursday. I think I have a shot at it." Belichick says, "Got it. I hear from Buffalo and NYG that you are their guy. Hope it works out if you want it to." No, so he's telling Flores that he has heard, true or not, that he has heard from the Giants and from Buffalo that Flores is going to be the next head coach.
Well, he's telling Dable.
No, he's telling Flores.
Oh, no, he thinks he's telling Dable.
He thinks he's talking to Dable.
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah.
But and so that's when Flores said, well, Flores says, "That's definitely what I want. I hope you're right, Coach. Thank you." And then he says, "Coach, are you talking to Brian Flores or Brian Dable? Just making sure." And then Belichick goes, "Oh, sorry, I screwed this up. I double-checked and I misread the text. I think they are naming Dable. I'm sorry about that." So he's basically telling him, "You're the guy," from everything that I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Now, what his sources are, whether he's full of shit when he's sending this, I don't know why he would send that to Brian Dable if it wasn't true.
This was before, obviously.
And this was a few
Flores
days.
Even had his first interview.
His second interview. 3 days before his second interview.
Okay.
So
again, the Giants hadn't announced their decision yet. So
no, but it's part of the premise of the lawsuit, which is that the Rooney Rule is ineffective and teams are just doing it. It's window dressing. And that's where where he's making the case.
Who else was being interviewed by the Giants besides Dable and Flores?
Patrick Graham.
They interviewed Quinn, right?
They interviewed Dan Quinn.
So if Dan Quinn's name was Brian and he accidentally texted that to Dan Quinn, would the consequences be the same?
No, Dan Quinn's not black.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Look, you just said it. The NFL has a problem. There's no question about that.
Mm-hmm.
And Flores is saying it's time to stop pussyfooting around it and tiptoeing around it. And it needs to be blown wide open that what the NFL is doing to try and combat this is a sham. And teams are making a mockery of it. And it's a terrible way to treat people in general.
Well, what also is surprising if you look at Flores and Lynn in San Diego, is that these guys got fired briefly into their tenures with those teams and having a pretty good amount of success in those time frames.
Flores was one game under 500 and had 2 winning seasons, his last 2 winning seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So he took a bath season 1.
So that's more troubling to me. This is
all part of the whole?
This is part of the bigger problem. It's not even,
I mean, and that's part of, I think, what the lawsuit, one of the things he wants is, he says, I want teams to list, why did you hire this guy and why did you fire that guy? Because otherwise, right, and it has to be in writing, and it has to be submitted to the league, and it has to be official. Now, John, to your point, I don't think it should be used for any outside third parties to make decisions about who to hire.
Right. I was being.
Yeah, I know. But
that also.
The point is that if you say to Miami, well, why if you force them to put in writing why they fired him, are they going to put, well, he didn't get along with Tunga Vailoa and he didn't get along with his coaches? And if all that's bullshit, probably not. But it could be leaked.
Are we setting a precedent where this has to be done in all aspects of life? For every hire?
You mean outside of football?
Yeah.
No.
Again, how does Major League Baseball have the diversity that it has? And I'm granted it could still be more diverse. The diversity in the managers does not match the diversity of let's face it, baseball will be probably 90% Latin in the next 5 years.
If you divide white versus minority in baseball, it's probably.
And how is the NBA doesn't have a Rooney rule, whatever it's called,
right?
Well, I think part of what you said is group ownership, right? It's more popular.
But I said out of the 30 teams, there's only 4 teams that have a majority ownership that is actually, there are some women in the mix too there, but it's 4 out of 30 as opposed to 2 out of whatever 32. So the ownership, it's not a bigger diversity in ownership. I think what it is that the NBA just
maybe they're just willing to hire
They were willing to hire players who early on in the history of the sport, and I think there's far less of a now look, there are obviously coaches who could probably elaborate on this far better than any of us can. I'm sure Doc Rivers has things he could say about this. I'm sure that there's other coaches who, there are other coaches who have been denied the ability to coach, and others who, Well, how did it take How did Patrick Ewing never become a head coach in the NBA, but Luke Walton did it 2 years after he retired from basketball?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look,
well, that was a family.
But it's
Ewing didn't have the NBA the dad with the NBA pedigree that Walton had. I'm not saying that.
No, he just had the NBA pedigree.
Yeah, I'm not saying it makes it right, but
that's both of them together.
Well, here, let me see. This would be an interesting breakdown. What is the breakdown of former players, professional players who are now coaches?
Well, it's certainly far higher in
the NBA, right? Less so in baseball.
Former NFL players. Because most of these guys,
not guys who played a couple of years.
You're right.
But guys that played in the league and they had stature in the league. They didn't necessarily have to be all-stars, but they were players and they were known.
I would say that right now in the NFL, and look, I think that has proven to be maybe not a winning formula in the NFL.
Right.
I think probably 85% of the head coaches in the NFL have never played in the NFL.
Right. I would agree. That's probably about right. So,
and it's a different game to manage. Let's be honest.
Right. I'm not saying that, that's a terrible thing. It should be the same as basketball. Mm-hmm. I think you're right. It's a smaller level of success probably for coaches.
There's a lot of coaches that are linebackers or defensive line coach, linebackers coach, defensive backs coach, tight ends coach. But a lot of those are former players that were tight ends, and they're the tight ends coach. So there were, so there's a lot of.
But there aren't a lot of those guys that are graduating to that head coach.
Well,
job.
no, whether I don't know whether they want to or not, but I mean, they're there. They're not necessarily there because of their coaching, overall global coaching, everything football prowess. They're there because they know how to be a good tight end, so they're going to teach the tight ends how to be a good tight end. They're there because they know how to be a good cornerback, so they're going to teach the cornerbacks how to be a good
cornerback. So
cornerback.
the majority of the players in the league are African American, and maybe the majority of the under coaches might be African American as well.
Okay.
But it doesn't seem to be translating to the head coach job. Right? We got how many coaches have been hired in this offseason? 4?
7. Well, the couple didn't get hired yet, so yeah.
Right. How many head coaches? 4 already, right?
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4.
And how many of them are black?
None.
And how many of them are former players? I mean, NFL players.
Almost right now in the NBA, 12. There's 12 black head coaches. How many teams in the NBA?
30.
30. So
almost half.
Just shy of
half.
Just shy of half.
45%.
And who are they?
I don't know.
No.
Thought you had a list.
I'm trying to.
Well, let's think about how many. I couldn't even name the.
Well, I mean, Nate McMillan in Atlanta.
Forget black or white. How many former players?
Well, Nate McMillan was. I mean, I don't know. I'd have to have a list of all the coaches. But I mean, Monty Williams played. He has the. I think he played in the NBA. I mean, quite a bit more.
Yeah, right. You got Doc. You got Steve Kerr. You got Steve Nash.
I mean, yeah.
I'm sure there's a few others.
Chauncey Billups.
Right.
Quite a bit. I mean, back in the day, not too long ago, you had Ty Lue and Jason Kidd, and yeah, I mean,
yeah, and you had guys that were around forever, like Lenny Wilkins.
Yeah, maybe more than that should be, but at least it same thing with baseball. There seems to be far more ex-players.
Pretty sure.
Somewhere on the.
Pretty sure Pat Riley played a little basketball too.
Yes. Yeah. So it doesn't always translate. Now, I will say this: it seemed like there were both more ex-players and more diversity in the NFL coaching ranks. If you go back a number of years, it still didn't come close to what the NBA has historically been. But it seems like we're at a low point right now, and it seems like there is something driving this to the point where it's just it's way. I mean, you look at Bieniemy, you look at Byron Leftwich, you look at Anthony Lynn. Has he interviewed for any of these jobs?
I don't think so.
It's shocking to some degree.
It should be. And look, if you don't change ownership, then the only way you're going to change this is you're going to need owners who are going to look at these candidates, right? We got 4 guys that we're interviewing, right? And this guy, outside chance, this guy we really like, this guy's kind of a second tier. So we got 1 and 2, and we love both of them, and we'd be happy to hire either one of them. One of them's white and one of them's black. We're going to hire the black guy because he's black. That's what's going to have to happen in the NFL. Right. They're going to have to make a conscious decision to increase the diversity based on race. Because otherwise it's just going to be the same coaching carousel.
Right.
I mean, how many
in the NFL?
In the NFL. I mean, how many times do we see these guys? Why is this guy
hold on. There's a lot of young coaches who come from a long lineage of coaches, but I would say that there's far less of a what's the word I'm looking for? Heritage. I mean, there's not a lot of the older sort of coaches that have been around forever are finally leaving. And so if you look at the guys who were left other than Andy Reid, you had guys, all of them under 40, 32 years old. Now, granted, one of them had Shanahan at the end of his name, but
Right, but that's the next generation of the circular.
It is. It's the current generation.
Right.
Well, I mean, Shanahan. I mean, like half of the damn coaches in the league worked with Mike Shanahan and Kyle Shanahan. You know,
I get that, but you could say the same thing in a lot of other in other sports. My point being is that I think that they're starting. I think they are willing. The NFL is willing to take a chance on younger, inexperienced coaches. So if that's the case, and there's not as much historical, resume for black coaches, then why is it not translating to an equal amount of new opportunities in new hires? Right. Look, I actually think that Brian Flores will be a coach in this year. I think he will wind up coaching Houston. I really do. And I think I hope that the lawsuit does bring something to fruition that is positive. I don't know how you do it. I think it just has to be a change. I don't think you could force it. We're trying to force it. It's not working in the NFL. Right. Whereas it has naturally taken over in other sports.
Right.
Well, I don't know what that is. I mean,
the only other thing you can do is you can say, well, we're gonna. I don't know if you do it like with a lottery system or something. I don't have X number of black coaches, and the short straw has to hire one. I mean, that's punitive to say it that way.
I don't think it's up to the league to do it. I think it has to be a gut check for ownership and a reality check.
Well, but the ownership is the league.
That's not true.
To me, when you say the league and the ownership, that's the same thing.
Well, a rule and what Goodell is going to put into play is not going to. Obviously, it's not going to change anything.
Right, because it obviously hasn't. But
what are you going to incentivize owners for making a minority hire? That's insulting.
Yeah, it's insulting. You can't do that. Look,
is it any more insulting than having these guys go through a bullshit interview when the team already knows who they're going to hire and it's not them?
No, but we have to get to a point where people are hired and that the diversity starts to climb without people feeling as if they were a affirmative action. And granted, affirmative action has had its place. I don't think we need to prove that anymore. I think that this league is being dominated. The product on the field is a minority dominated game. It needs to be reflected in the coaching ranks, and hopefully in the ownership ranks. That's going to be a lot harder. A lot harder. But I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people who don't want to. The Denver Broncos are up for sale. A team that has had a long history of a family ownership here. Come on, Oprah, buy it up.
There you go.
I mean, I just think a lot of people don't want to necessarily invest in sports franchises right now. And,
especially not in a league that has a racism problem.
Right.
Why would I want to buy an NFL team?
Right. Well, look, we could literally talk about this all night and half the day tomorrow, and probably longer than that. So, if we were going to be able to figure this thing out tonight, we should keep it going.
That's the thing. Nobody has any real
right. So, and just for the record, my number one desire for the Giants head coaching spot was indeed Brian Flores, and my number two was Brian Dable, but my number one was Brian Flores.
Now, was that before, after, or both the bogus rumors leaked to the media about his problems getting along with people?
But before and after.
Okay.
If you're a good coach, you're always going to have problems getting along with people because all that is people being sensitive to what you're telling them.
If somebody told me that he gets along with everybody, that's when I think they're full of shit.
Right. But I mean, it was to a point where it seemed like, where it could be a situation where other teams are going, well, I'm not going to. I had some interest in him, but now what I'm hearing from these sources, which we now know were the Dolphins.
It's all bullshit.
Just think about that from the terms of racism.
Right.
The Dolphins hire this guy. He won't tank for them, so they fire him after 2 winning seasons. And not only that, but they then poison the water by saying shit about him. He can't get along with the star quarterback, blah, blah, blah. So that maybe other teams won't hire him or won't be as eager to hire him.
Yeah.
I mean, if that turns out to be true, then to me, that ownership should be tossed out of the fucking league.
Well, there you go. That's a
that.
good
I mean,
that was my point in saying that this. I think the root of this, and granted, I don't think the Broncos and Giants are innocent in any of this, but I do think the root of this should be the way he was treated with the Dolphins.
If all that stuff turns out to be true,
Dolphins.
that is absolutely despicable. And they ought to be.
Look. When it comes to I agree 100%. The Dolphins, that was horseshit. It was a farce. But as far as the Giants go, hey, look, if they investigate it and they find issues, I'm all for changing those problems. Absolutely.
Yeah.
However, it just seems to me, and I'll wrap up this thought for me now. It just seems to me that it was more so a different mindset and a friendly type of nepotism, more so than racism.
I think what it was, I agree with you. I think what it was is the Giants had their mind made up. It was a 2-for-1 deal, but what they failed to do is take into account the of treating Brian Flores like an actual human being and not an unnecessary step that the league has forced.
But you know what? If that was,
that's the problem.
Yeah, but here's the thing, and I would agree with you if it wasn't for the fact that they had already interviewed Patrick Graham,
and they
interviewed Leslie Frazier.
Why bring him back for a second interview?
Because they
have to.
No, not necessarily.
I thought that was part of the rules.
No, they just had to interview him. They don't have to bring him back.
But they already interviewed him, right?
Right, but that's my point.
So why are they bringing him back for a second?
Because apparently they were. It was between Brian Dable and Brian Flores, and until the 11th hour. That's the report. Anyway, I wasn't there clearly, but my point is that they interviewed 5 people for the head coaching position. 3 of them are African American.
I get all that. My point being is that if Belichick knew something because somebody in the organization told him, he wouldn't have been that definitive in a text intended for Brian Dable.
Right.
It just seems weird that the Giants would be bringing Brian Flores back for another interview 4 days after they have.
Unless you have to find out what the source was, right? If it was just some fan, some idiot in the front office that spoke out of turn, spoke out of school just because of what he heard and this and that. It looks like, and it's the phone chain game too, right? Like he hears, looks like it's leaning towards Dable. Obviously, they're going to bring back in Flores too because they want to make the decision. It's between the two of them. And in his mind, that's probably leaning towards Dable. And he's talking to Belichick. Yeah, it looks like it's leaning towards Dable. And Belichick says, "Oh, let me call Buffalo." It says, "Yeah." Buffalo says, "Yeah, people up here, they might be leaning towards him." It looks that way. So all of a sudden, Belichick changes it to "looks like you got the job" kind of thing. You know what I'm saying?
Why is Belichick such a fucking gossip whore?
Who the hell knows?
I don't know. Maybe he was bored.
Again.
I thought he just took his. He just laid in the sand.
He's got his quarterback. He knows he was going to draft already.
Isn't he like a crab shark? He just lays in the sand somewhere until.
No, he's like one of those trapdoor spiders. Just pops out.
I just thought he had spreadsheets for which 8th round receiver. You just see that popping up out of the sand while he's drinking Mai Tais.
Right.
Yeah, the Rooney Rule doesn't say anything about a second interview.
No, it's just they have to interview somebody. Yes. But
it's weird that he would be telling Dable, "It looks like you're the guy." That's what I'm hearing, not only from the Giants but from Buffalo.
Right.
Now, look, the Giants.
It's just odd that went down that way. Now, if Brian Flores got a text meant for Brian Dable from John Mara that said, "We're going to hire you. We just got to bring Brian Flores in for just for whatever." That's different.
Again, this is one of the good things about having an owner that probably doesn't text.
Yeah, you could. But listen, the Giants might be a little overly sensitive about this too, because they are one of the teams that a lot of people talk about
that has never had
this, and they go 100 years, never a black head coach, and I think they've had one black GM, maybe, right?
Jerry Reese was black. Well, he still is, I think. But
so maybe they were like,
Patrick Graham's obviously he's not a head coach, but Patrick Graham's offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and
right. No, but I'm talking about
Terry Fuel was. They've had
there's lots of minority coordinators.
Right.
So maybe they're a little bit, sensitive to that because they are one of the teams that, people point to and go, 100 years. Never had a black guy running the show.
I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. It's weird. Look, at least it's being exposed, and it's sort of one of those things we all know. The Rooney Rule. I think if the Giants are guilty of anything, like violating the Rooney Rule, they're
why was Mickey Rooney so ahead of the game?
I don't know. They're guilty of the same thing that a lot of teams are. Other teams.
I think it was Ed Rooney.
Ed Rooney
from Ferris Bueller. There you go. All right.
Well,
we've talked about this for an hour, so
that's about right.
I mean, I think we could end the podcast now, and it'd be great.
Right.
No, because we got to talk about the Pro Bowl.
Well, there's a few other things. There were a couple of games this past Sunday. Let's talk about them for a minute, shall we?
Really disappointing games, I got to say.
Well, not for you.
They were very
50-50 for me. Great for Harry.
Yeah.
So there you go. We'll get to that in a second. But let's talk about, the Bengals first. The Bengals in Kansas City. That was first game anyway. The Bengals tied the biggest comeback in championship history, 18 points. And the Bengals had the worst record of any team between 2019-2020 season. Between those 2 years combined, they were 6-25-1.
Yeah,
and they're in the Super Bowl. All right. And they had the worst record. The Jags were 7-25. The Lions were 8-23-1, and the Jets were 9-23.
And the Giants weren't much better.
And the Giants were like a game ahead of the Jets, I think.
10, yeah.
But the Bengals had the worst record between those two seasons, and they're in the Super Bowl. So it can turn around fast if you have the right quarterback and the right.
I'll tell you what won that game for the Bengals. It's the same thing that Bill Belichick did for the whole game. I'm going back to Super Bowl in 1990. Is that they said, gee, everybody tells us we should be running this zone defense, and it seems to not work for us. I think they just listened to the players and said, let us cover man to man and give us 2 to 3 extra. We're not getting a pass rush on Mahomes anyway. That reminded me of what Belichick did in that Super Bowl. Mahomes was dumbfounded in the second half.
Mahomes seemed very un-Mahomes-like.
He had too much time. I don't know why Andy Reid and Bieniemy didn't run the ball more.
Sure.
Because they were having success in the first half running the ball. But Mahomes was just like, all right, I'm going to beat you anyway. And the Bengals defense won that game.
Yeah.
Bengals defense in the second half won that game. Now, Burrow's fantastic. You know my thoughts on it. I think he should be MVP. And there would be nothing better than watching him win a Super Bowl with essentially the Giants' offensive line.
It was crazy. I don't know why they didn't run the ball more too, but I think the whole game turned.
I think he was the most sacked QB in the league
by far, 180 times or something.
Yeah, he would love to have
in
the
one
Giants
game
offensive line.
You know what? I think the whole tide turned, if you will, and whatever they talked about in the locker room. But the end of that first half,
when
they didn't kick that field goal. They kicked that field goal at the end of the first half. The Chiefs win the game.
Well, yeah.
For the most part. If everything went the same way after that, the Chiefs win the game. But, if as soon as he threw that ball, not in the end zone to Hill, and he didn't get in, and time ran out. That was it. That was the game. Came over right then, even though they were up 11 points at that point. But look, he was very un-Mahomes-like in the second half, and kudos to the Bengals. Kudos to Houday. So.
Listen, maybe the Chiefs. As powerful as that offense is and the great skill players they have, and of course Mahomes is a magician, maybe they need to figure out a way to not make him have to be a magician quite so much.
So frequently, yeah, exactly.
Because as great as he is, it's really hard to do that a lot.
Part of it's his decision-making.
He makes it look easy. But it's really hard to pull that shit out of your ass over and over and over again. And, we're at a point now. You got to think a little bit of the bloom is off the rose. Still big things for Patrick Mahomes.
Sure.
But anybody think he's going to get close to Tom Brady in Super Bowl wins anymore?
No, but does anybody not think that the Chiefs are going to be a top 3 team in the AFC next year and be back in the AFC Championship game?
Well, they probably will, but
probably.
That doesn't mean anything if you don't win the big dance. And
right.
So far, he's got one, and he is great. But maybe
he's gotten to 4 AFC Championship games in a row.
Yeah.
Won 2 of them, lost 2 of them, and he's 50. He's 500 in the AFC Championship games, and he's 500 in the Super Bowls.
I'm not saying it's not impressive.
Right.
It is. But maybe you'd have a little even more success if you didn't have to be, a magician so much of the time.
No, I agree. That's true. It is.
I mean, Burrow wasn't a magician.
Well, listen,
Brady wasn't a magician coming back from the same score in that game.
Right, but it seems like Mahomes is always under the gun.
During the regular season, every game he's a magician.
Yeah.
But it's usually the opposite. It's usually because they fall behind and they have to come back.
They're normally a second half team. They switched it up for this.
I really thought, oh God, this is going to get ugly, and it did. And I was like, and it was really the ability of the Bengals to completely change their defensive scheme at halftime and say, okay, you are not going to pass on us. This is the only way I know how to stop Patrick Mahomes from beating us passing the ball. Mm-hmm. And they did. And in overtime, it was because of that double coverage and trying to force a ball in that the interception occurred, and finally the Chiefs were stopped at the end of the game or in overtime. And so
the Chiefs made adjustments, and I mean the Bengals made adjustments, and I don't think the Chiefs countered.
It's ironic.
You just said it. Why didn't you run the ball more?
Right. No, exactly. They should. They should have.
I think Bieniemy and Andy Reid are great. I think they get outcoached occasionally, more often than not. I think they take their talent for granted, and I think that they're unable to sometimes change their scheme.
Yeah,
and just look at what's. I mean, I was going, man, if Kansas City just runs the ball, they'll gain like 14, 15 yards every. They just were continuing to try to go downfield, and look, they did at times. But the Bengals were just, I mean, they're rushing 3 guys, which means that they were dropping 8 guys into coverage.
Right.
Yeah. And
8 guys into coverage.
As talented as those guys are, you can't expect them to make great plays, especially in the face of an 8-man secondary.
I mean, that
again and again and again.
The play in regulation where he fumbled, and fortunately they recovered it, which made it a much longer field goal. It was like a video game. It was like he was back there, and he was the person in Centipede, and then all of a sudden, somebody from Centipede after 30 seconds decided to go and rush in and knock the ball out of his hand. And it was his decision making in holding on to the ball so long and allowing that coverage to sort of dampen the play and prolong the play. It just baffles me. And that's coaching.
And that's the opposite of what usually happens, right? The longer you hold the ball, the better it is for your receiver.
I think if Patrick Mahomes was to drop back, let the play develop, and run left or right to the sideline, he could have scrambled for 10 yards every time.
Mm-hmm.
There was nobody covering the edge.
Mm-hmm.
Or, hey, how about a nice little screen pass?
Something. Yeah, screen passes don't exist anymore, do they?
No, not at all.
Occasionally.
I think John Riggins was Tiki Barber was the last.
Well, then you got Garoppolo throwing it into the ground.
Well, Garoppolo's horrible, but that's a whole other story.
We'll get to that in a minute.
Janine Garoppolo.
So congratulations to the Bengals.
And on the Bengals side of things, they're talking about running. Joe Mixon was unstoppable. He
wasn't unstoppable. He had at
least at the end of the game, towards the end of the game.
Yeah,
and especially in overtime when he was just.
But in the second half, Mixon's numbers were down, but he had a good game.
He's a pretty good player.
Yeah,
he's a great player,
and he's really good at beating up chicks in the McDonald's.
Is he one of those?
Yeah, he punched a chick in the McDonald's.
Is that right?
But that was in college. He was a crazy young man back then.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was in college. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? High school maybe.
Whatever. It was a few years ago. Could have been high school. I don't know. Yeah, you're right. I don't know. But he did it, and I'm going to keep bringing it up.
There you go. All right, the Rams and 49ers.
Very, very disappointing game.
Yeah. Matt Stafford tried to be Matt Stafford and give it away, but
but he's no Jimmy Garoppolo.
I mean, it was like, I don't know. It was like catching a punt, and that guy just dropped it.
Yeah, that was the point where I hung my head and went, nope, they're not going to get it done. I honestly picked them. I had faith in them despite Jimmy G. I thought the defense could keep them in it, and I think I texted you guys about it. Mm-hmm. Keeping them in it in the first half, keep it close. That's all they had to do.
The 49ers defenses, special teams. I mean, we talked about this list earlier of best defenses. I mean, I'm not sure I can name 4 guys on that defense. I think they're one of the top 10 defenses of all time.
They've been phenomenal.
I mean, it's pretty impressive. I mean, part of me sort of wishes that Trey Lance had a year of development, because now it seems like they're going to hang their hat with Trey. He's going to come in. I think the 49ers maybe take a step back next year a little bit.
Right.
But how do you maintain that level of defensive intensity? It's really hard.
Well,
maybe for one more year or close, but
let me give you the stat on Jimmy G. Okay. Since Jimmy Garoppolo has been with the 49ers, when he plays, they're 35-16.
Yeah.
When he doesn't play, they're 8-27.
Yeah.
How many championships have Jess Hornacek gone to in the NBA? You know,
okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. I mean, we always joke about a systems quarterback.
I'm not saying he's a great quarterback and they should keep him or anything like that. I just mean
it's much better than their backup quarterback.
Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah. I think he's in the lower 30% of quarterbacks in the NFL.
On the flip side of that, on the Rams side, OBJ going to Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, there's lots of reasons to root against the Rams. He's certainly one of them.
He was 9 for the 11 passes. He caught 9 for 113 yards.
Yeah.
TD.
Yeah, I'm happy for him. He deserves it. After all he's been through. I mean, come on.
Well,
he was on Cleveland, for God's sake.
Right here. There's a little sarcasm dripping out of the side here. Matthew, I'm going to wipe it off a little bit. Anyway, and Stafford, first year out of Detroit,
he's
going to Super Bowl.
He's one game away from Antonio Browning.
Yeah, I don't know. I like the Rams, but they let me down again by winning this time, not by losing.
The Ram. I mean, what
how
are the
do you
Rams?
not root for the Bengals?
The Rams, what, 5, 6, 7 point favorite? I mean, the Rams should win this game, but by a lot.
The Chiefs should have won on Sunday too.
Well,
yeah, but the Rams have I would say, a somewhat significantly better defensive line.
I think the Rams have probably, if you look at any of the teams that were in the playoffs, just on paper, if you look at who has the best offense and defense and rank them, I think the Rams would come out number 1 when you combine the talent they have on both sides of the ball.
Sure. Yeah, I agree.
Now, that doesn't mean that, they certainly are not perfect. They've got some really good talent on the out. They might be, I think, from what I heard, their tight end is hurt. That's a big loss if that is indeed the case.
Both tight ends are hurt.
Both tight ends, yeah.
Yeah, Uzomah is hurt and Higbee's hurt. Yeah,
They're
Higbee,
both they're hoping maybe can play.
They're both
hopeful.
They're both Uzomah's questionable and Higbee's hopeful. So if that's a category.
So I just think sometimes there's teams of destiny, and I don't know how you don't, unless you're are they LA fans? I mean, aren't these just St. Louis fans that just followed the Rams after the Cardinals? I mean, where are the Rams from? I don't even know. I mean, I guess they were. I think maybe there are some people who I think have a soft spot for Matthew Stafford, and I get that. But the rest of the team is
they're LA fans, but not Ram fans.
Go Bengals. Go Bengals.
Well,
they like Los Angeles, but not necessarily the Rams.
Yeah. They're not Chargers fans.
They like things Los Angeles.
Do they know the difference between the Clippers and the Chargers? I mean,
I don't.
They have the same colors.
Right.
No, I don't think they do.
They're the Rams and the Chargers.
Yeah. Well, they don't know the difference between the Clippers and the Chargers. They don't know who either of those teams are because they're not the Lakers and the Rams.
All right.
I got to put this up. Hold on one second. I got where is it? I forgot to do this before, and you just reminded me.
Because the Rams were St. Louis, then they were Los Angeles. Right?
No, they were Los Angeles first, then they were St. Louis, then they're back to St.
They went to St. Louis after the Cardinals went to Arizona.
Right. They went to St. Louis in the 90s. Cardinals went to Arizona in the 80s. Here you go. This is a map. This is a map of
ancient LA fans, old LA Rams fans.
Do you think Vince Ferracamo will be at the game?
I don't know. I don't know.
I
This
hope
is
so.
this is a map of who's rooting for what team based on the country. So here you go. Right here. There you go.
Is it Orange County that
There you
likes
go.
the Rams?
There's a little bit of St. Louis rooting for the Rams. There's a little bit of Kansas City because they don't want to root for the Bengals rooting for the Rams, and California's rooting for the Rams except for San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go, and everybody else is orange. So, but
Yeah, how can you not?
right. Hey, what are you gonna do? Yeah. So on that note, though, Matt Stafford, excuse me, Matt Stafford is going to be playing in the Super Bowl. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Eminem is going to be performing at the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, the halftime's all rap.
So it's all Detroit, huh?
So it's a Detroit Super Bowl.
Maybe
right?
Kiss will sing Detroit Rock City,
There
and
you go.
the Motor City Madmen will come out and
There
catch
you
Yeah,
go.
who
gas.
else? No, who else is going to be there? Snoop's
It's
going to be there.
MC,
right?
Yeah,
MC5.
It's Eminem, Snoop Dogg, Mary
Fab
J.
Five
Blige, Dr. Dre, and somebody else. So it's all.
I like
it's all-
Eminem.
There you go. So I like the peanut ones.
Mhm.
A little bit better.
They used to be
I do,
sexier.
Eminem's a sick writer and a sick rapper. He really is.
He is.
He's
He's
good.
got a lot of skills.
He does. He's made Dr. Dre a lot of money.
There you go.
Yeah.
Maybe Dr. Dre,
Not that
Eminem,
Dre
and
really
Snoop-
needed. He didn't
Maybe
need that
Dr.
much
Dre,
help, but-
Eminem, and Snoop Dogg should buy an NFL team.
There you go.
And Mary J.
Yeah.
Blige. Mary J. Blige probably has more money than all of them.
Probably.
Probably.
That'd be a great ownership group, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she could be like 51%, and the other three could split to 49.
There
That's
you go.
right.
That's very true. That's very true. All right.
They could call themselves the Gin and Juice.
Gin and there you go. Gin and juice. They could buy the Denver team and rename
That's
it.
right.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right.
I don't think Snoop's going to want to get high in that thin Denver air.
Mm.
There you go. A
Make
couple
me
of
too dizzy.
couple other things to point out. Whatchamacallit? The last 18 Super Bowls.
Mm-hmm.
The last 18. So last year and then back. The last 18 Super Bowls contained either Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Ben Roethlisberger, or the 49ers.
Yeah, it's kind
Last-
of a random stat.
For the last 18 years. So whatever. So I just pulled it up. It's there right there for you.
The 49ers know how to get to the Super Bowl with. I mean, the Giants need to be looking at the 49ers. I mean, they know how to get to Super Bowls with
Mhm.
mediocre quarterbacks.
they've only been
The only team that rivals them is the Ravens.
They've been in 2 Super Bowls in the last 10 years, the 49ers. In the last 10 years, yeah. Excuse me, they've been in 2 Super Bowls. They went with Colin Kaepernick and Jimmy Garoppolo.
Ginny Garoppolo.
Can you imagine that's you're interviewing for like the GM position? You're like, what's your plan for the historic franchise that we call the San Francisco? Well, I want to build a team that can basically get to the Super Bowl with a mediocre quarterback
There you go.
and just kind of perpetuate that.
I mean,
We'll see
before
what
that,
happens.
2 of maybe the top 5 quarterbacks of all time in that franchise.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Since then,
Well, we're
it's hard.
not-
It's hard
we're
to
not
find a
going-
good quarterback.
Well, Jeff
Yeah.
Garcia was in there too, so don't forget him.
Yeah, we didn't talk about the old Garcia and his 1950 views of the world. Leave it to Beaver.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Josh McDaniel got hired at the by the Raiders. I thought
Kind of a good fit. I mean,
I thought he was going to be Belichick's heir apparent, and I know I said that I texted you guys that the other day, and you said what in 2034?
Yeah,
and
2045,
2045, or whatever.
Look,
Belichick's son is going to be his heir apparent.
Not unless he deserves it. Belichick is just like a corporation.
But he is loyal to no one. I think he'll be a little bit more loyal to his son.
Well,
And his son's done a pretty good job.
Isn't it Bob Kraft's decision, not Bill Belichick's decision, or who
You
replaces
think so?
him?
You
I
think
don't
so?
know.
You think so?
All right, well, maybe it will be Robert
Bob
Kraft's-
Kraft wanted Brady to stay. Belichick did not.
I think as long as Belichick keeps hiring his hypno-massagists for Bob Kraft, then he can still run.
That's
the team.
right.
There you go.
How old is Belichick? He's not that old.
70.
Yeah. I mean, I could see him doing this for at least 6-7 more years.
Sure, why not?
And then his son will be 27 and
How,
he'll be able to.
Son will be 27.
Yeah. How old was Like Marv Levy. Didn't he coach to like 75 or something?
He was in his.
That explains the Super Bowl in '90 because I don't think he could see the field very well.
But I don't know. Yeah, I don't think Belichick's going anywhere anytime soon. But
well, he's got to milk at least the next 4 or 5 years out of Mac Jones, right?
Sure.
I think if he wins another one, he'll stop.
I can see that.
He wins another one in the next couple.
I think it's gonna take 3 or 4 years for that to be even a chance.
I don't know, man.
Brady won't want his second.
They don't have a lot of work. They
is,
don't have that much work to do.
No,
they were pretty good this past season, considering.
That's true. All the all the quarterbacks retiring. We got after 2019, Eli retired. After 2020 season, Drew Brees and Philip Rivers retired, and after this season, Ben Roethlisberger and Tom Brady retired. So, who was going? Foreshadow the Hall of Fame in 5 years. 3 years, 4 years, and 5 years, if you will. Who's getting in first ballot? Clearly, Tom is. But what about Ben, Drew, Philip, and Eli?
I don't know. I have to look at the history of who gets in first ballot in the NFL. I know it's higher than baseball, but maybe none. I think the media likes Breeze better than the rest of those guys. I think.
But he's only got one Super Bowl.
I think Eli and Rivers will probably not get in on first ballot. If I had to bet, I would say maybe. Well, I think Drew Brees gets in first ballot.
All right, fair enough. If Eli doesn't get in on the first ballot,
he won't.
Then is he getting on the second ballot?
He'll get in. They're all 4 of them.
No, I know. Does he get in on the second ballot?
I think so.
Okay, so if he gets in the second ballot, then he's in.
I think Ben might get in on the first ballot, but I think he'll fall a little short. I think Breeze gets in. And I think Rivers will definitely get in on the second ballot.
Well, here's the thing: if Eli gets in on the second ballot and Drew Brees gets in on the first ballot, they're going in together, right? If Philip Rivers gets in on the second ballot and Ben Roethlisberger goes in first with Tom, all 3 of them are getting in on the same ballot. So, that's where I was going. If Eli doesn't get in the first, second year,
Roethlisberger should get in on the first ballot, but his past will stop it a little bit.
So, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to say Eli gets in with Drew Brees in 2020 in 2025.
Eli's a bit of a bubble.
Yeah.
But he'll get in.
Yeah.
I think it's because he's the Mannings are kind of like football royalty, especially post their playing career.
Sure. But I say Eli gets in with Drew Brees. Eli second ballot, Drew Brees first ballot in 2025. Nobody gets in 2026. Or no, 2025 with Eli. I'm sorry. Eli doesn't get in 2025. He gets in on the first ballot with Drew Brees in 2026. Ben and Tom get in 2027 on the first ballot, and Philip Rivers gets in on his third ballot in 2028. That's where we're going. So mark that down, and we'll revisit it on the shows in 2028.
I'm more interested in if Devo gets into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
There you go. That's true. Anyway, Washington Commanders.
The Dance Commanders.
Yeah, the other worst kept secret in the NFL.
There you go. There's your uniforms. Right there. So the W is still on the helmet. Now, are they? Let me ask you a question. Are they going to? Did I hear something like that and I forgot? Are there going to be multiple helmets now? Because they got the burgundy helmet with the gold stripe, and then they have a black helmet there too with the W in front. So
it might be.
Are they going?
Why not?
Black is new. Huh? That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So black uniform.
Oh, did you hear the Bengals are going to wear black in the Super Bowl?
Are they with stripes still?
Yeah, going to wear their black.
Wait,
uniforms.
The Bengals are going to be in the Super Bowl?
The Bengals, yeah. Snoop Dogg and the Bengals in the halftime show.
There you go.
One black and Egypt.
Turn the sound off. That'd be a great performance.
There you go. So anyway, all right. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got.
All right.
So
do you want to talk about the Pro Bowl before the picks or afterwards?
We don't. Are we doing picks tonight, or are we gonna do them next week?
I guess we do them next week, right?
Yeah, we can put up.
Where are we at though? What's the? Can I?
You got the graphic?
I got the graphic right here. I'm gonna put it up right here. There you go.
Throw it up.
There you go.
Here we go.
So Johnny's still winning.
Chalk Johnny in first place.
I can only tie.
Harry with a good week, and yours truly biting the
with
dust
not
of
so
San
good a week.
Francisco. Yeah, not so good a week.
Not so good a week. So,
Tied
you
with the
know,
coin.
it's possible we ended a 3-way tie.
Well, here's the thing. We
I have a feeling you guys are going to take the Rams. So.
Well, we have to figure out. Well, we don't have to do it now, but like who picks first, and do we flip a coin to see who picks first? Because it could affect.
I'm taking the Bengals purely on just emotion.
So, well, we're not. We'll pick next week. So you got a week to think about it. So we'll put it in the books next week. But
and we also got to think up some tiebreakers.
We got to think up.
We could literally end up in a 3-way.
We literally, if the two of you pick the same team and I pick the other team, we'll. If my team wins, I win. If my team loses, we end in a 3-way tie. So.
Yeah.
But
interesting. The coin is out of it.
We'll have to think of a tiebreaker because I either win or tie one of you two, or both.
Right. There's definitely going to be a tie.
I think the Pro Bowl should be the tiebreaker. I mean, why not?
Speaking of the Pro Bowl,
I knew you wanted to talk about the Pro Bowl.
I think the opening game of the USFL in March should be the tiebreaker.
I think Garcia's playing.
I do think we should have some ridiculous picks for next week for the Super Bowl. Like who's going to score first? Who's going to?
You should do that.
Some props.
We should have a pool. Yeah.
Well, are we going to do what we did last year?
I don't remember what we did.
We did our prop bets, and we did an hour show the morning of Super Bowl Sunday.
Oh,
really?
We're not doing that again.
Jesus, how drunk was I that day?
We could.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
What time in the morning did we do it?
We did it. It was noon for us. It was 10 for Harry.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, I'm usually drunk by then.
So we'll talk about it.
I'm still drunk at 10.
All right. Well, speaking of the old Pro Bowl, I don't know how you guys feel about All-Star games and Pro Bowls and stuff. And some people think they're a good time to mess around with rule changes or experiment with things.
Sure.
Other people think sometimes that can.
I loved them as a kid.
As a kid, I watched the Pro Bowl every year.
Yeah. Well, let me ask this quickly off topic here, sort of on topic. How did you feel about the winner of the All-Star game gets the home field advantage in the series?
I don't like it.
I don't like it either.
And you can't do that with the Major League Baseball All-Star game. You can at least play baseball. The NBA, at least you have to, it's like there's not much defense. The NFL is almost like a scrimmage without pads.
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
Well, it's going to even be a little bit more bizarre.
Yeah.
Because they're doing the spot and choose method. I don't know if you heard about this.
Spot and shoot?
Spot and choose. Here we go.
Spot and shoot.
Is it like trap and skeet? Well, biathlon?
Spot and choose is slightly more expensive than the regular rate on the OnlyFans.
And choose. Yeah, I was going to say.
All right. So here's how it works.
It's the third tier up, right?
Yeah. It's like a second 2.5 tier.
Right.
So for guys who really want to be high rollers or feel like high rollers but don't have the bread. So here's how it works, and it's effed up, but it might be interesting.
Okay.
Because it's the Pro Bowl, and the Pro Bowl is anything but interesting these days. So maybe this will.
Yeah. When was the last time you guys actually watched a Pro Bowl?
Years.
I was a much younger man. All right. Yeah. So here's a reason.
90s.
At least to tune in. For the first part of it. Okay. So the winner of the
last time I watched the Pro Bowl used to live in New Jersey.
The winner of the opening coin toss will have the option of spotting the ball anywhere on the field while designating direction, or choosing whether to start on offense or defense from the designated spot. Regardless of, we'll go over this again.
I'm definitely not watching.
Of which is chosen, the team determining
just like a train
the
wreck.
spot
Watch it.
must
just
announce,
that, and then turn it off.
Must announce the starting field position before the other team can decide whether to play offense or defense. The loser of the coin toss will have the choice between the two privileges to start the second half.
I have a more important question. Will this be technically Tom Brady's last game in the NFL?
If he even actually goes out and plays.
Do you think he'll play?
I don't.
I don't know.
I think he's done. I think he'll be there. Come out,
He'll play a few plays.
Maybe,
all right, so
say it again.
Okay.
Say it again.
So, me and Harry,
we're
going against each other.
Okay.
Harry
I
wins.
flip the coin.
You flip the coin, Harry wins.
I'm the NFC. Okay.
You're the NFC.
There you go.
You can either A, put the ball anywhere on the field you want and designate which direction you're going.
As an offensive.
Wait.
Okay.
Or choosing whether to start on offense or defense from the designated spot.
So it's twofold.
Well, no, because
one team chooses the spot and the other
team
you
choose not to put the ball on the spot. I choose where the ball goes, and
his choice is to put the ball in a spot wherever it is on the field and pick the direction.
And I choose offense.
You choose offense or defense for
right.
you from that spot,
or he chooses offense or defense,
and then you spot the ball,
and I spot the ball
in the direction.
Well, I mean, the obvious thing to do is put the ball on the 1 yard line, and then obviously the person's going to pick offense, the other person's going to pick offense, so you got him hemmed in, right?
Wait, say it one more time.
So if I get to put the ball anywhere on the field,
right?
Okay, I'm going to put it on my opponent's 1 yard line,
right?
Okay.
Right,
well,
no, you pick the spot and the direction.
Oh,
yeah.
So you put on the 1 yard line, and
you
if you put on the 1 yard line and say I'm going into the end zone, they pick offense and run a play and get a touchdown.
This is all fucking stupid.
Isn't it? It's like a cartoon,
right?
Just
so if you put it. You know what's going to happen? They're going to put the damn ball on the 25 yard line and say that direction, and you're going to pick offense or defense. That's all. You know. So.
Or what if you? Well, now get past the ridiculousness of it. What if you put it at the 50?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter which way you go, right?
Or if you're on offense or defense.
Well, then I would pick offense, right? Because now I'm on offense. I only have to go 50 yards instead of 75.
Have you ever seen a kickoff return in the Pro Bowl? You're starting at the 50 every time anyway.
That's true too. Yeah.
Yeah. But the point is, this is what I do find kind of interesting about this.
They don't have kickoffs in Pro Bowls, do they?
Well, we really don't have kickoffs in the NFL anymore.
Wow.
How many kickoffs were actually returned this year?
Well, I don't even know what the point is.
But here's the Pro Bowl saying we're not going to have the kickoff. Like the way we've changed the rules makes the kickoff virtually null and void.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to try and spice it up. We're not even going to bother kicking it. We're just going to do this.
It's the Pro Bowl. These are the best players. Put them on their own 5 yard line and let them start from there.
But now, if this gains any popularity, and who knows, it might.
No.
This could be the future of the NFL. We already know they want to get rid of the kickoff. They virtually eliminated it now. Right?
Well,
in fact, wait, let me just say this. In fact, even though it was such a non-factor, it was a factor in the end of the whatchamacallit game, Bills. where they said the Kansas City and
Bills Kansas City.
Yeah, they said, why don't you squib kick it and take some time off the clock, you jackass, instead of kicking it out of the end zone like you always do.
Well, two things to help it.
Definitely want to get rid of.
You can't get rid of the kickoff, but here's how you.
They want to.
Well, they maybe. Who knows? So you have to. Where does a kicker kick it off from right now? His own 25, right?
35, I thought.
35. Okay.
I think the 35, right? Because
just move it back to the 20.
Where it used to be.
No. They don't want to do that because they want the ball to go out because they don't want that speed hit. They don't want those high speed collisions anymore. It's a safety thing. That's why they did that.
And here's my new thing. Just get rid of the kickoff. I want to move it back though. I don't want everybody starting on the 25. Start on the 15, and in overtime you start on your own 10. Let's give defense a shot.
Right. Well, here's the other thing too. Let me ask you this: they're going to do that for the beginning of the game and the beginning of the second half, right? In the Pro Bowl.
Yes. The teams switch sides. So whoever loses first gets to make the choice in the second.
So now, okay, that's fine. Now, what do they do after somebody scores? Are they going to kick off, or are they going to do that again?
There's no kickoffs.
No kickoffs. So every single time somebody scores, they're going to do that.
Yeah.
or are they just automatically putting it at the 25-yard line?
I'm not watching this.
No, the Pro Bowl will not have any kickoffs. They will be using spot and choose. Now, there must be some sort of reasonable strategy to this.
Right. I don't know what it is, but there must be something, right?
There doesn't necessarily need to be anything.
I mean, you could put the
Is it in Hawaii? Is the Pro Bowl still in Hawaii?
Vegas.
Well, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that you ruined it right there. It has to be in Hawaii. Always has been. Why are we fucking with everything?
It could never be in Vegas before because there wasn't a stadium in Vegas. Now there's a stadium in Vegas, so why wouldn't it be there?
But it could have been in any other number of places. It was always in Hawaii.
They want to showcase the new stadium.
Fuck Vegas.
No, they want to
should be in Hawaii. If you become a Pro Bowler, you get to go to Hawaii. That's part of the perk.
Yeah. Agreed. I agree.
Hey, did you know that
I want to see Dan Fouts tossing it between palm trees. That's.
Did you know that? I think it's in Arizona. The field actually rolls out of the stadium.
Mm-hmm. That stadium was designed by Peter Eiserman. It's actually a pretty neat stadium. Yeah. I'll tell you what, SoFi, is that what it's called in LA? That's also a really, really well designed stadium for what I can tell.
Yeah.
Same thing with the new Mercedes Dome or Mercedes Stadium in Atlanta.
Right. Yeah. This is second year in a row, by the way. Second year in a row where the stadium that the Super Bowl is in, the home team of the stadium is playing.
Right. I think that's a big thing to talk about.
And also this was the first year that the NFC Championship game was held in the same stadium that the Super Bowl is going to be in, 2 weeks
It's
later.
also in LA now. It's not in Pasadena. It's not in, it's a little different.
Right.
I think it'll be a good thing.
So, there you go. And whatchamacallit, the
Vegas for the Pro Bowl.
When you talk about Vegas, the other thing I was going to say, I mentioned Josh McDaniels got the Raiders job, by the way. Apparently, from what I read, the first thing he said to Mark Davis, it was a fumble. Talking about the Raiders-Patriots game when Brady fumbled and
Of course he's going to say that to his new boss.
There you go. I got you. All right.
Is he gonna continue to wear those stupid visors?
I don't know. Maybe.
What is with visors? I mean, unless you're a professional poker player or an accountant from the 1910s, you really shouldn't be wearing a visor.
There you go.
It's a look.
It's a weird look, though. It's nothing. I mean, I don't know.
Well, Doug Peterson wears a visor too, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
So anyway,
where's Doug Peterson?
He's interviewing in Jacksonville.
So. Boy, who wants that job?
Right. Doug Peterson, maybe.
I'll take it.
There you go.
I bet there's a lot of guys that would jump at that job.
I'll take it.
All right. Should we do our top 10 for the evening?
Oh, God. We still have things to do.
Well, we're only doing 10 now. We actually did. I'll explain in a minute. Our top 10 list tonight. Top 10 Cincinnati Bengals of all time. And I'll give you 3 guesses what next week's list is going to be. You can figure that out. But tonight's is top 10 Cincinnati Bengals of all time. All right.
We need to do this at double speed.
We will. We'll fly through it.
No middle names.
There you go. That'll cut it down. We did our voting today, folks, and we actually, between the 4 of us, we voted for 14 different guys on the Cincinnati Bengals. 14 different names, and as it turns out,
some of us did research.
As it turns out, the 14.
I looked at things.
The 14 names that we all voted for between the 3 of us. Were all made the list. In fact, not only did they all make the list, they all made the list with so many ties that we only had 9 places.
Yeah.
So what we did was we dropped the bottom 4 because they were clear lower, less points the way we do our point system or whatever. So just to mention them right now, those 4 would be Max Montoya, who is a guard. James Brooks, who was a running back, Bob Trumpy, who was a tight end, and Isaac Curtis, who was a wide receiver. So those are our special mentions tonight. So we're going to get to our list right now. We have 10 straight for you. So we'll start with number 10.
3 of those guys were on my list.
Yeah.
So they probably deserve to be on the Number 11s.
One of
I
them
think
was-
you just like the name Max Montoya.
Well,
It reminds me of the Princess Bride.
It's a great name.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
I thought you'd like him. He was a guard or something.
I
wasn't
liked him. I had him as, on my, he was my special, segment, although that's changed. So,
he? Oh, yeah. All right. That's a good one, though.
Yeah, you know what? You want to do Max Montoya instead because he made the list, so we put the other guy on, and
sure.
we can
Make Pete happy.
You can do that. So we'll do Max.
I don't like
Montoya
him that
instead.
much.
We'll do Max
He
Montoya.
just like that
All right.
mustache.
There you go. All right. So number 10 on our list tonight, we're gonna start it off. So we only have 10. Is number 10 on our list is Willie Anderson. Willie Aaron Anderson, offensive tackle out of Auburn, picked in the first round, 10th pick overall in the 1996 draft. He played 12 seasons for the Bengals, and then he also finished up his career 1 year in Baltimore with the Ravens. 4-time Pro Bowler, 3-time first-team All-Pro, 1-time second-team All-Pro, and and those are pretty much his stats. So there you go. Number 10 on our list tonight, Willie Aaron Anderson. All right, moving on to number 9. Somebody that everybody pretty much knows is Mr. Boomer Esiason. Norman Julius Boomer Esiason, if you will, Boomer being a nickname. Norman Julius Esiason.
Sounds like a stand at the mall.
I think it was, actually.
Norman Julius.
There you go. Quarterback out of Maryland, drafted in the second round, picked 38 overall in the 84 draft by the Bengals. He played for 9 seasons with the Bengals, and then he played for 3 seasons with the Jets, a year for Arizona, and then he went back to the Cincinnati Bengals to wind up his career again in 1997. NFL Most Valuable Player in 88, Man of the Year in 95. That was while he was at the Jets. One-time first team All-Pro in 88. 4-time Pro Bowler and AFC Player of the Year in 1988. And Harry, that's a good look for you. And there you go. And just to throw this up, he's actually a pretty cool guy to talk to. There you go. So just wanted to throw that up there. Those of you listening to the audio pockets, the picture of me and Boomer. So anyway,
It's doctored.
Oh no,
Your Photoshop skills are getting much better.
You want to? No, that's the two of us said. Actually, right over here, a couple years ago. Anyway,
what hat is he wearing there?
I don't know. Some sort of a golf hat or something. I don't know.
Oh, right.
3 arrows pointing up with the middle one red and the top and the bottom are white. I'm not quite sure. I have a Mets hat on if you're referring to that. So.
No, I meant his.
Anyway, all right, cool. Number 9 on our list, Mr. Boomer Esiason. All right.
By the way, speaking of hat, where did you get your hat? That is.
What's that? Mine or Harry's?
The one you're wearing now.
This one right here?
Yeah, that looks like you bought it on a bootleg cart outside the stadium after
no. This is actually a New Era hat. I got actually from Fanatics, where I get most of my.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm saying. It's an actual legit Cincinnati Bengals issue hat.
All right.
No, nothing wrong with it. Anyway, number 8 on our list tonight. What?
I was just filling time until Harry came back.
I got you. That was pretty good.
You guys should have just kept going.
I know. I didn't want you to miss any of it.
There you go.
Nah.
Did you see the picture of me and Boomer?
I did.
You got it. All right. I'll put it back up again if you want.
No.
I'm kidding. Anyway, number
Did
8 on
you
our list.
recognize the logo on Boomer's hat?
No.
All right.
You didn't? There you go.
Oh, what is that logo?
I don't
I
know.
don't know.
Not quite sure.
Maybe they're like.
It looks like a deconstructed Montreal Expos logo. Or something.
Maybe it is. Not
Who
quite
knows?
sure. Who knows? All right. Moving on to number 8 is Mr. Corey Dillon. Corey James Dillon, running back out of Washington, drafted in the second round of the 97 draft. Played for 7 seasons with the Bengals and then 3 years with the Patriots as well. Super Bowl champion in Super Bowl 39. 4-time Pro Bowler and 1-time first-team All-American in college in 1996. There you go. So, number 8 on our list tonight, Mr. Corey Dillon. Moving on to Mr. 7. Tonight's Mr. 7 is Lamar Parrish. Lamar R. Parrish. I guess the name is a secret. Lamar R. Parrish. Cornerback and return specialist out of Lincoln. Drafted in the 7th round with the 163rd pick overall in the 1970 draft by the Cincinnati Bengals. For 8 years he was on the Bengals. And then he went to the Redskins for 4 years and finished up his career for a year with the Buffalo Bills. 8-time Pro Bowler. 3-time first-team All-Pro, 2-time second-team All-Pro, and Football Digest NFL Defensive Player of the Year in 1979. Tonight's Mr. 7, Lamar Parrish. All right, going to number 6 is Geno Atkins. Geno being a nickname, Raynard Atkins Jr., defensive tackle out of Georgia, drafted in the fourth round of the 2010 draft. Spent his entire 11-year career with the Cincinnati Bengals. 2-time first-team All-Pro, 1-time second-team All-Pro, 8-time Pro Bowler, member of the 2010's All-Decade team, and, of course, he had a couple accolades in college as well. So there you go, Mr. Geno Atkins. And it looks like he left the Bengals a year early.
Yeah, bad luck on his bad luck, man. Man, he give him in his prime right now on that defensive line for the Bengals, and it's a different world.
Absolutely. There you go. So number 6 tonight, Mr. Geno Atkins. All right, moving on to number 5 is Mr. A.J. Green.
Ooh.
A.J. Green. All right, A.J. Green. Adriel Jeremiah Green, in case you were wondering.
I was.
There you go. Adriel Jeremiah Green. Wide receiver out of Georgia, picked in the first round with the 4th overall pick in 2011. He played 10 seasons with the Bengals until last season. He is with the Cardinals right now. He is an Arizona Cardinal. Still active. 2-time second-team All-Pro, 7-time Pro Bowler. Made the All-Rookie team in 2011. 2-time first-team All-American in college. A lot of college accolades he has. But he's got over... he's in his 11th. He's going to enter his 12th season now. He's got over 10,000 receiving yards, so pretty good numbers. Number 5, Mr. A.J. Green. All right, moving on to number 4 is Mr. Ken Riley. Kenneth Jerome Riley, cornerback out of Florida A&M, drafted in the 6th round of the 1969 draft. Spent his entire 15-year career, 15-year career with the Cincinnati Bengals. And he coached, he was assistant coach with the Packers for a couple of years and went back to Florida A&M for, many years, about 8, as a head coach. And he's executive down in Florida A&M as well. But anyway, football career highlights. First team All-Pro in 83, 2-time second team All-Pro, and coach of the year he was in 88 and 90 with Florida A&M. So there you go. Mr. Kenneth Jerome Riley. Ken Riley, number 4 on our list tonight. All right, number 3 on our list tonight is the jersey I'm wearing, Mr. Chad Ochocinco. Chad Johnson, or Chad Javon Johnson, or Chad Ochocinco Johnson, or just Chad Ochocinco. Any of those you want, that's him. Wide receiver out of Oregon State. Drafted in the 2nd round with the 36th pick overall in the 2001 draft. Spent 10 seasons with the Cincinnati Bengals. Then went to the Patriots for a year. Dolphins, he was in the offseason of 2012. And then he floated around up in Canada. He was on the Alouettes in Montreal. And then in 2017, he played for the Monterey Fundadores.
He went to the Monterey Pop Festival.
There you go. But while he was playing football, he was a 3-time football in the NFL, that is. He was a 3-time first-team All-Pro, 1-time second-team All-Pro, and a 6-time Pro Bowler, as well as the NFL's receiving yards leader in 2006. Chad Ochocinco, number 3 on our list tonight.
All-time leader in receiving yards for the Bengals.
There you go. Absolutely. And in April 2011, CNBC listed Johnson as number 1 on its list of most influential athletes in social media. So, in case you wanted to know that stat.
I did not know that.
Well, no, you did.
I don't follow the Ocho. Is he a TikTok guy or a Twitter guy?
Yes.
Okay.
Both.
There you go. All right, moving on to number 2. Number 2 is Mr. Ken Anderson. Kenneth Allen Anderson, quarterback out of Augustana College, drafted in the 3rd round of the 1971 draft. He spent 17 seasons with the Cincinnati Bengals. And then he stayed around for another decade or so as a coach with the Bengals. and then coached on the Jaguars and the Steelers as well. As a player, he was the NFL MVP in '81. Burt Bell Award won in '81. He was Offensive Player of the Year in '81. Comeback Player of the Year in '81. '81 was a good season for him. He took them to the Super Bowl. NFL Man of the Year in '75. First Team All-Pro in '81. Second Team All-Pro in '75. 4-time Pro Bowler. 2-time NFL Passing Yards Leader. 4-time NFL Passer Rating Leader. 3-time NFL Completion Percentage Leader. And he's in the Cincinnati Bengals Ring of Honor. And as an assistant coach, he actually is a Super Bowl champion for Super Bowl 18? Is it? No. Yeah, sure. 18. Yeah, Super Bowl 18. No, wait a minute. 40. I'm sorry.
Super Bowl. He was a coach before he was a player.
It's actually it's weird the way it's written here. It's not just in straight Roman numerals. Super Bowl 43 is when he was. Super Bowl 43 is when he won as an assistant coach with the Steelers, as a matter of fact. So there you go. Ken Anderson, number 2 on our list tonight. All right. And number 1 on our list tonight, in case you had to guess, is Mr. Anthony Munoz.
I think most people will have to guess.
Maybe. It's possible. Michael Anthony Munoz, offensive tackle.
It could be anybody.
This is true.
So people
Joe Burrow.
Yeah, really. Offensive tackle out of USC, drafted in the first round with the 3rd pick overall. Offensive tackle drafted with the 3rd pick overall in the 1980 draft. He played for 13 seasons with the Cincinnati Bengals, and then he went to Tampa for he was an off-season member of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So primarily his entire career was with the Bengals. NFL Man of the Year in '91, 9-time first-team All-Pro, 2-time second-team All-Pro, 11-time Pro Bowler, NFL 1980s All-Decade Team, 75th Anniversary Team, 100th Anniversary Team. He's in the Cincinnati Bengals Ring of Honor. He won the Bart Starr Award in 1990. He was a national champion in college in 1978 as well. And he is the only one on our list tonight in Canton in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah, the only Bengal in the Hall of Fame.
There you go. Mr. Anthony Munoz, number 1 on our list tonight. Well, there you go. That is our list. All right. So now we're going to do tonight's Old Balls. Old Balls. All right. Harry, why don't you tell us who tonight's Old Balls recipient is?
Well, tonight's Old Balls recipient is none other than Mr. Max Montoya. Max Montoya Jr., actually, from La Puente, California. He was unable to play football or basketball his senior season in high school due to a heart murmur. He was cleared to play college football, but played 2 years at a community college at Mount San Antonio College in Walnut, California. He did not start. He went to UCLA, did not start as a freshman, but went on to have a career at UCLA. Was drafted in the 7th round by the Bengals. Was a 4-time Pro Bowler, 1-time second-team All-Pro, and played the majority of his time at the Bengals on the same offensive line as Anthony Munoz. And, pretty impressive career for a guy who didn't even play his senior year in high school and played 2 years of junior college at a relatively unknown school before that. He played 5 seasons after the Bengals with the Raiders, and had a pretty long career considering that offensive linemen don't usually last that long. But no. Over the years, the Bengals have had some really, really good offensive linemen. I think Max Montoya is certainly one of those, and a 4-time Pro Bowler, nothing to sneeze at. So he is this week's recipient of the Old Balls Award, Mr. Max Montoya.
Mr. Max Montoya, this week's Old Balls.
Old Balls. You were number 10 on my list, Max.
Yeah,
and an honorable mention because we did mention that before. So we'll give an honorable mention to who was going to be Old Balls tonight. Missed it out because we moved Max Montoya up into that spot.
Yeah, he's kind of a football player. He's a kicker.
There you go.
Jim Breach, the Bengals' all-time leading point scorer. I still think he still is.
I believe he is. Well, with Evan McPherson now.
Well, 1 year. He hasn't done what Jim. I think Jim Breach kicked for like 39 years.
That's good.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw it. There was one video put out when Evan McPherson was in college. He had a Gatorade bottle that was he had a tape down so the bottle wouldn't move, but he had a tape down to like in the stadium in college to like one of the upper deck railings, right? So the bottle wouldn't move, but he had the cap on it. He actually kicked the football up, and it spun right by, hit the cap, and knocked the cap, and spun the cap off of the bottle.
Well, let's hope if the game's on the line, he kicks a field goal, that he goes down in history as the person who kicked the game-winning field goal in the Super Bowl.
There you go.
And if we have to put a bottle in the stands with a cap on it, then so be it.
So be it. There you go. All right.
Yeah, put one of those on the center of the goalpost.
Exactly.
Not too close to the center.
Not so much. No.
Not too low. Not too low.
All right. We want to talk any NBA tonight, or we pretty much good?
I think they're suspending the season, right? Because I don't know.
Because of
Kevin Durant's not playing, or something?
Kevin Durant's not playing, so they're pausing everything else until he's better. They'll start up again when he gets back. There you go. Whatchamacallit? I did want to mention this one thing though. It's been reported. Okay, that the Jazz are one first round exit away from Donovan Mitchell coming to New York.
Yeah, where is this rumor coming from? Why would he want to leave the Jazz and come to New York? Well,
the report is that he's not.
Oh, for the Mets. He's not going to leave basketball. Just like we had hoped that Charlie Ward would start for the Giants, it's not going to happen.
Well, when Charlie Ward was playing for the Knicks, he was the best quarterback in New York. So,
well, yeah, still is. Yeah. Look, Donovan Mitchell's God. He's a hell of a player. Utah's struggling a little bit. I think you don't realize how important Rudy Gobert is to that Jazz team. Good one tonight, Nuggets and Utah. And I think what's people are not talking about are the Phoenix Suns and the fact that they still have not lost double-digit games this year. Mm-hmm. It's pretty impressive. Are they better than they were last year? Can they perform in the playoffs and get over the hump? I think they can. Mm-hmm. And I think that they're beating everybody, including really good teams on the road. Mm-hmm. And that's a hard thing to maintain for an entire season. But if they can, they're going to be tough. Plus, the Jazz losing Joe Ingles. The Lakers are kind of a mess. The Knicks suck. I don't know. What else?
Well, here's my question.
Knicks lost tonight by 12.
Here's my question about the Knicks. Can they get back to the playoffs?
They can. They're one game out. They're one
game out of a play-in.
Yeah. So.
Here's my take on the Knicks: is that I think the Knicks are in a similar situation to. Is Tom Thibodeau and the front office? Do they talk to each other? Like, does he have any say in the personnel? Because was Tom Thibodeau all in on? I mean, I get the feeling that the front office is making moves that they think are good, and Tom Thibodeau is like, no, I don't like this, and I'm going to punish that player because I just think they don't fit into my scheme because they don't play defense. Right. So Kemba Walker's certainly the first person that comes to mind in that. The second one is the Knicks gave up not a lot, but some capital to get Cam Reddish. And I think Cam Reddish is averaging 5 minutes a game.
Yep. Yeah, if that. I think I think he played 4 minutes his first game that he's eligible to play with the Knicks, and then he didn't even play in the second game.
Julius Randle is not, this sort of elite all-star. I mean, he's still a good player, but he's not having the same sort of impact year. At times, they can still play incredible team defense, and I do think that's where Evan Fournier, where we're getting the money worth from him. But he's certainly not this consistent third scorer or second scorer that the Knicks had hoped.
Right.
And I do think RJ Barrett has been the most improved Knick, but he's still much more is riding on his shoulder. He has to be that 25 and 8 guy every night for the Knicks to be able to compete against anybody. The Knicks on occasion due to COVID or people out or whatever, but the Knicks
was he the third pick in his draft?
The Knicks do not beat anybody who's in the playoff race. They don't beat any team that's 500 or better.
Well, you know what?
They lost to the Grizzlies tonight. I mean, Grizzlies are a good team. So.
Grizzlies are a good team. Grizzlies coming off a loss. You don't expect them to a loss to a Philadelphia team without Joel Embiid. Right. So,
let me run down a little bit of the Knicks schedule for you. Mm-hmm. All right.
Go ahead.
You tell me where the wins are going to come from. All right. So next game. So they got a little road trip coming up. They got the Lakers. That's probably winnable, right? Lakers
depends. It depends on whether LeBron comes back or not.
Yeah.
The Lakers are actually AD's playing pretty good ball, so I could picture him dominating the Knicks.
Yeah. And it's Saturday. I don't know how long LeBron's out, but it's not like a multi-week thing, right?
I think the Lakers win that game.
Okay. And then they got the Jazz. That's a loss.
That's a loss.
Mm-hmm. Nuggets.
Loss.
That's a loss.
I might be going to that game.
Golden State. That's a loss.
Mm-hmm.
Portland might win that one.
Might win.
Okay. Then they come home and they got Oklahoma City.
Mm-hmm.
They should win that one, but that's tough.
Nets, they might win that one. Who the hell's going to play? We don't know who's playing for the Nets. Then Miami.
No.
Then they got back-to-back home and away with Philly.
Mm-hmm.
Then they go on the road again. This is a killer schedule. Phoenix, Clippers, Kings.
Mm-hmm.
Probably beat the Kings, right?
So those are 2 wins. Clippers and Kings will be 2 wins.
Mm-hmm. Mavericks.
Mm-hmm.
Loss.
Grizzlies.
Loss.
Nets.
Loss.
In Brooklyn.
Yeah, but that's...
I think I could see the Knicks winning. I don't know how many you just rattled off, but I see them winning a maximum of 5 of those games.
All right, so let's go to... We're in the middle of March now. All right, let's go to the end of March. Oh, we can go through. We have time. Portland. Then they're home for Portland. Washington. Probably win those games, right?
Yeah, they should win those 2.
Then they got Utah.
Washington's tough, though.
Yeah, then they got Utah and the Hawks.
Mm-hmm.
Then they go away against the Hornets, the Heat, Detroit. That's a win.
Mm-hmm.
Home for Chicago and Charlotte and Cleveland. And now we're in the beginning of April, and they
that I could see them going 500 in that March stretch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then they finish up in Orlando, home for the Nets, in Washington, and then home for the Raptors on April 10th.
So 500, maybe just above 500.
So they might,
but I think they're going to be. I think they're going to wind up 7-8 games under 500.
Yeah, because they're going 5 and 9,
15,
5
and 10,
5 and 10, something like that,
what,
and then
20,
500 ball. So they're
24 and 28 right now.
24 and 28, yeah.
4 games, so I don't think that's going to get them into the play-in.
I hope they don't.
If they're another 5 games down from that, they'll be
Well, look, the Hawks
9 games under 500 is not.
The Hawks have 24 wins. The Wizards have 24 wins. Toronto's got 26.
I think the Wizards, the Knicks, the Hawks, and the Pacers are all the same team.
Yeah, I don't. Pacers are worse,
I think Boston will wind up being. Boston and Toronto and Charlotte, I put a little bit a notch above those guys.
You can see them winning. I don't know what they're scared. I mentioned it because I heard today that
there's only 3.
Who the ranking body was, but they ranked the Knicks. The Knicks schedule the rest of the season second hardest in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who.
Yeah,
was first.
And look, there's only 3 games that separate the 1st and 6th team in the East. I mean, it's bottled up right now.
Yeah.
Right. That's true. I can't believe the Nets are in 6th. I mean, again, like you said, only 3 games out of 1st, but still, it's just funny.
I mean, they're still 8 games above 500. They're playing without their best player. They've played all season without their 3rd best player, and their 2nd best player has also missed some time, and is probably having his worst season as an NBA player since he was a 6th man for Oklahoma City. Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, I mean, I'm not too concerned about the Nets because we said the same thing last year, and then they turned it on in the playoffs, and they were 1 toenail away from going,
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting, though, because last year in the East, you had an obvious delineation between the haves, which were just a few and the have-nots.
Right.
And now you have 6 teams, and even Charlotte is only there are 3 back in the loss column from the Nets, but only 1 back in the win column.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 7 teams that are all within 3 or 4 games.
Yeah.
Very, very different makeup, right? It was the Nets, and it was Milwaukee, and then it was the rest.
Well, Toronto, Boston, and Atlanta, and the Knicks have dropped. The Bulls have gotten much better. The Heat have bounced back, and the Cavs.
Yeah, and the Sixers are
and the Sixers are playing good ball. And I think that was a statement win last night without Embiid. You know, this talk that the Sixers are not a complete team. I'm not sure they need to make any moves. I think if they do, it's not necessarily for a star player. I think they need another shooter and maybe somebody, 3 and D.
Right.
Yeah.
But everybody needs wings who can do that. I think if Embiid stays healthy, that's the one matchup that I could see giving the Nets the problem. However, having said that, I think at the end of the day, I think the Bucks and the Nets are still going to be the 2 best teams come playoff time.
Depending on who the Nets actually have to.
Right. Now, Durant will be back.
Right. Yeah, maybe. And look, Cleveland's 10 games over 500. How did that happen?
Right.
Well, they've had a lot of draft picks over the last few years, and they've done pretty well with them. And, Kevin Love, maybe comeback player of the year as a 6th man of the year.
How old is Kevin Love?
It's not that old.
He's only 42.
Like
he's younger than Tom Brady.
No, he's 30.
Mid-30s.
3.
Yeah.
Is that it? Doesn't it seem like he's been playing for 30 years?
Yeah, well, he started young.
He started when he was 8.
look at all these draft picks that came from them picking. Darius Garland, Jared Allen, Colin Sexton, Evan Mobley. These are all picks that they made. They picked up Ricky Rubio, who's now
Allen came from the Nets, though.
Yeah, true. But
that was part of their demise.
Yeah, and Allen's actually fit in with this team a little better.
Yeah.
He touches the ball quite a bit more, and it's their second leading scorer. Colin Sexton's kind of settled in, but I mean, look, he's one of the best point guards in the league, and they've got a good front line. They can go big, and they're one team that I think could give the Nets some problems because they're long and athletic.
Right.
And Cleveland is the real deal. I think there's in the West, I think there's some teams that have just fallen off a little bit, like the Lakers, like Portland. But don't count the Lakers out. LeBron's hurt. It's a veteran team. They look old at times, but I think they'll obviously make the playoffs. And I think that Anthony Davis is starting to find his groove a little bit, and he's still just one of those guys who can dominate a game.
Yeah. No, and listen, the Cavs got Rondo, which he's not the Rondo of old, but can he still be playoff Rondo? Right?
No, they don't even need him to. Can he go away?
Maybe.
God,
he's still annoying though. But
he's so fucking annoying. He had one good year.
Yeah.
He's the Sam Cassell of the new millennium.
No, he's had some good playoff runs.
So is Sam Cassell.
Yeah.
True story. True story.
2-time champion or 3-time champion?
3, right?
So, yeah. So, I don't know. Phoenix, Golden State's still, almost has 39 wins. Memphis. So, I mean, that might be the story of the year. And the fact that the Nuggets and Mavericks are still, in the 5th and 6th spot, it's pretty impressive. I don't know how the Nuggets are doing it. I really don't. They're 7-3 in their last 10, and I sometimes just scratch my head and go, I don't know how they're doing it.
No, they're doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a 3-man race for the MVP, and Embiid's great, but Jokic. If Jokic won it last year, he's having a better year this year. So, I mean, he is the Tom Brady of basketball. I mean, he doesn't have anybody around him, and yet he just keeps. The other day, he looked like if a 7-foot Chris Paul. He was just tossing dimes like there's no like. I think he had 14 or 15 assists. Just insane.
It's crazy.
I don't know. It's been a fun year for the NBA. It's the pandemic has certainly made it a little unpredictable with everybody being out all the time, but just a little frustrating. But I don't know. I'm thinking about going to my first NBA game in over 2 years. So
next Tuesday night.
Yeah.
Who are you gonna root for?
Probably the Nuggets. The Knicks are. Part of me is the fact that I even watch the Knicks at all with their ownership. I still can't really get over what James Dolan did to Charles Oakley.
I know.
I've lost I used to be the biggest Knicks fan in the world, and someday I just really hope that they'll get a new owner and the prestige of playing in Madison Square Garden will somehow come back to the home team and not just be
something for all the road teams to do.
For all the all-stars on the road team to come in and have their best game ever.
Right. And speaking of the other team that Charles Dolan owns.
Yeah. The Memphis Grizzlies?
The Grizzlies, right. The Rangers beat the Panthers last night.
They did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Grizzlies and Panthers.
Oh, my.
Yeah, the NHL is heating up, and I could care less.
I said Charles Dolan, Jim Dolan.
Jim Dolan.
He said Charles.
I know who you meant.
You knew I meant.
James Dolan.
James Dolan. Jim. Well, Jim, his friends call him Jim. So.
Do they? Does he have friends? He had to beg Latrell Sprewell to come
his friend.
People that he pays to pretend to be his friend.
His friend.
He had to ask Vin Baker after not speaking to him for 15 years to come sit next to him. True.
Well, he bought him a beer. He bought him a beer. So, but our Rangers are. Hey, they're kicking ass. But I mean, hey, it's like you said, it's heating up.
That's our hockey report. Rangers are still kicking ass.
The Islanders lost to the Kraken. Not to shift back to basketball.
The Panthers. The Rangers beat the Panthers, who have the most points. Who has the second most points?
I don't know, the Avalanche.
There, your Avalanche out there.
Yeah.
Not to shift back to basketball, but Charles Oakley. Charles Oakley has a new book out, and in the book,
James Oakley.
Charles, please don't ever mix him up with that.
Charles Dolan and James Oakley. So.
Charles Oakley has a new book out, and in it, he has an antidote where James Dolan would not shake his hand. Oakley at the time is around 2010 happened to be with LeBron James. He told LeBron James, "I don't know what I ever did to this guy, but he won't even shake my hand or look at me." And LeBron James turned to him and said, "That's why I'll never go to the Knicks."
Well, there you go.
He also says quite vehemently that he did not punch Charles Barkley in the face. And he wishes people would stop telling that story because he did not punch him.
Slapped him.
But he did slap the shit out of him.
Yeah.
Yes. There was no punches thrown. My hand hit his face repeatedly, but I did not make a fist.
Yeah, it wasn't a punch.
Barkley knows better. You watch these NBA fights from the 90s, and there's very few punches actually that ever land or hit. I mean, I think maybe the best punch was Larry Bird punching Bill Laimbeer. And I mean, I think the whole world just clapped on that one. Who doesn't want to punch Bill Laimbeer in the face? Yeah. I think Larry Bird would still punch Bill Laimbeer in the face if he saw him today.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't have much more for hockey or basketball.
Yeah, I think some of Laimbeer's WNBA players wanted to punch him in the face.
I tell you what, he had a pretty successful career as a coach in the WNBA.
He actually did. He did, but
there you go.
I just can't imagine. I don't know. Whatever.
I don't know. All right. Anything else? What about Mr. Nadal?
Yeah, whatever.
Oh yeah, the old time whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Well, listen, I'll say this:
21 Grand Slams.
He got a little lucky there because of Djokovic's idiocy.
There you go.
I'll say this: this does, with Nadal and with Djokovic and with Federer, even though he's fading, and there's some guys that are up and coming. It does kind of harken back to me for me back to the days when you had 3, 4, 5 players.
McEnroe, Connors,
Like
Bjorn Borg.
McEnroe and Connors and Borg and
Yeah.
Lendl and a few other names in there.
Sure.
Yeah.
That were all sort of good at the same time, and it was usually one of those one of that handful of guys that was winning almost all these tournaments, and then there was a long period of time where you had a player or two players.
Michael Chang.
Yeah, and you had
Pete Sampras,
dominant guys like Sampras, and then it was Agassi when he got serious and stopped eating Cheetos for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and became a really great player.
Shaved off his mullet.
Yeah.
But you didn't have kind of as many. It was a couple of guys at a time.
No,
you have this core, this handful,
which makes I think what Nadal and Djokovic what they've done even more impressive because they're doing it against top competition.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool to see. Listen, I hope they're all within striking distance of each other, right?
Exactly.
Yep.
Is anybody going to get
somebody
that?
else could take that back from Nadal, and then someone else could take it, and then Nadal could get it back. They're not going to play forever, but
there you go. Whose doorbell was that, by the way?
See who the next group of.
I think it was mine. I think it's probably somebody dropping off a package or something.
Gotcha. Dropping off a package. Right. Yeah, you're absolutely right, though. It makes it interesting.
Yeah. To have that group of.
To have that, yeah.
Handful of guys that are, any one of them could win any tournament.
Sure, absolutely. But yeah, no, it's a great feat though. 21 Grand Slams. That's
it's Novak Djokovic missed 2 shots and it cost him a championship.
There you go.
Pretty tight competition.
Come on, that's pretty good.
It is pretty good.
That's a good joke. It's the only time he missed 2 shots and lost the championship.
Lost the championship.
Yeah.
Right? So anyway,
I guess if you have to explain it, it's not
it's
good.
not yet.
No,
well, he missed 2 shots and lost the championship. That was pretty funny. That was pretty good. Though.
Well, listen, the Australian government figured out how to stop him, which is what a lot of other players have been unable to do. So,
yeah, that decision took almost as long as Bush versus Gore.
It did linger on for a while.
There's some hanging chads and some indecision going on there.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I did see the meme. It was Djokovic in Australia, and he was sitting playing the old Atari Pong game.
Oh, jeez.
It
was like by himself?
It was like he was Djokovic keeping fit in Australia. He was playing Pong.
It's pretty funny. All right. Do we have an over-under tonight?
No over-under tonight. I don't have anything good.
All
right. Till next week. We'll save it all up.
We'll save it all up and do it all next week.
I got to come up with a Super Bowl related over-under.
We'll have to do that. That'll be
Do you have a Costco-sized bag of Doritos or something?
Maybe.
And you just got to eat them while you count them.
Well,
1, 2, 3.
Occasionally, at times, we have a Costco-sized bag of Cheetos, but I also have a 17-year-old, so it's in the house for maybe 20 minutes.
All right, so how many are left in the bag? There you go.
Well, that's just it. If I buy it the day before,
it's gone that night.
We might have a chance of having some left.
There you go.
Maybe I'll buy it on my way home Wednesday.
There you go.
And then I'll...
Wednesday to Sunday is a pretty long opportunity for it to disappear.
That's far too long.
Ovechkin out for the All-Star game.
There you go. We'll figure
Hurt
it out.
or just out of
COVID?
Really?
Yep.
Wow. Interesting.
He's not really good.
No,
he's a systems player.
He's a systems
system goal scorer. System scoring champion.
He's another one. I mean, who's older, Ovechkin or Kevin Love? I feel like Ovechkin's been playing since like the 90s.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. I bet he's probably 30.
Has been. So. Yeah. All right.
All right, let's wrap it up.
We'll wrap it up on that note. We'll wrap up the show for today. We want to thank everybody for watching, and for those of you just listening to the audio podcast, thanks for listening.
Don't forget
For those of you just listening, sorry. Yeah, there you go. Don't forget to visit our website, www. I should say that, yeah. .getonwithitpodcast.com. That's getonwithitpodcast.com. And please remember, like us and follow us on all of our social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just search for the Get On With It podcast. And, of course, all of the shows are on YouTube as well on the Logger Room channel. Remember, we go live with the video podcast on both Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night around 7:30 Eastern Time. And for those of you that just want to listen to the audio podcast, you can do so on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music Podcasts, and iHeartRadio as well. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to one or more of those feeds, and you will never miss a show. Again, thanks for following along with us. Have a great rest of your week. Have a wonderful weekend. Don't forget to watch the Pro Bowl on Sunday. And cross your fingers that the Players Association and the Major League Baseball come to an agreement soon so we can actually get to baseball this year. Anyway, have a great weekend.
Please watch the Pro Bowl for us.
Yeah, watch the Pro Bowl, and then
everyone's thoughts on spot and shoes.
And then we want you to write into us so we can actually have a report on the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, right into us.
Just send it self-addressed stamp.
Self-addressed stamped envelope.
Send a Sazy too.
There you go. All right. Anyway, have a great weekend, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Take care. Cheers.
Bye, everybody.